ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 348 of the Fans of Power podcast. Gang's all here, and joining us, we have a special guest. He is the creative director at Tweeterhead, David Igo. Thank you for coming and hanging out for a couple hours.
Yeah. Oh, a couple hours. I thought it was 30 minutes.
Oh, I mean, we can kick you out of here at 30 if you want.
Stop.
Show's over. Thanks for being here. We'll
yeah, it was great talking to you guys. See you next week.
Bye. So how's it going? You were talking to us before the show that your collection is in front of you, so you felt a little left out because
part of it's in front of me. I mean, it's throughout. I live in a house, so a lot of it's scattered amongst the house. But yeah, I got like a lot of it off to the side, and then a lot of it behind the computer, so I can look at it. I was like, why do you guys have your collections behind you? You have to be like,
Same. Mine's over here.
I didn't really think about that much. I guess it works better for people watching us, but yeah, it kind of doesn't make sense to just have it behind us all the time.
You guys, like we were talking before the show, you guys got to show that, like, oh, we're nerds. We got to prove
we're true fans.
This whole room though is a nerd fest for me though. It all surrounds me everywhere. So if I turn in any direction, there'll be something. Only thing will be a window over there, but you get to see Eternia, so that can make me look real smug. But I could fucking turn it that way.
You
but
ought
I won't.
to, dude. Show that off.
I will do that one time.
Have your desk on a rotating thing in the middle, so you can just be rotating.
I have a TV. Mine's a TV tray. I got an old TV tray, and then I got like 4 boxes stacked up on top of each other, and that's what this is. I got a Cuisinart box here. I got a Cringer and an Adam 2-pack. I got a Filmation behind the scenes tape or whatever, one of those master tapes, and then I got a bookshelf thing sitting here. So I have a stack of fuck. That's how it always is with me.
Lying about all that, and we'd have no choice but to believe you because we can't see it.
Exactly.
But the sad thing is, it's hold on, it's true. Cuisinart, the packs, the tape, all of this shit's real. See, there's Attorney over there and all that shit. Yeah, Joe Amato doesn't lie.
Don't pay attention to the hookers, David. ignore those.
But it's weird.
Another Wednesday on Sunday. Yeah.
The crazy thing is, whatever comes out of my mouth, it sounds so fucking insane, like it couldn't be real. But then you see, it is real. He really did stack it just like that. And Nathan, thanks for doing the intro because Rebecca didn't want to do it. She was gonna botch it. She said, "I don't want to do this
just
intro."
To bully me and like pick on me, so I didn't.
I do not.
Her exact quote was, "I am not drunk enough to do that." I'm like, okay.
That was. And then what did you say, Nathan? Like, so you've been drunk for every intro then?
I mean,
I gotta go back to do like a supercut of all of our intros in order of drunkenness. So,
what does that say about us that she feels the need that she has to pregame really hard before she joins to do the show with us?
Like another week with these dipshits. Here we go.
No. Speak for yourself. I think you're the only person she has to drink for, Joe.
For me,
the only person who's making her feel uncomfortable on a weekly basis.
Tyler's never drank. He probably gets fucking tempted.
You cause mom to drink. Jeez, I don't mean that in an age way. I mean that in the mature way, like the mom of the group. Obviously,
gotcha.
Which is funny because she is the youngest
here.
Huh? She is the youngest.
Yeah, and Joe's the oldest.
Yeah.
How old are you?
Well, thanks for rubbing that.
I'm 35.
Oh, you are, baby. Dang. Yeah, I'm only 22, so I just aged horribly. Yeah, I made it really far in this life.
Joe's always shocked that like I admit my age. He's
because nobody knows how.
Because Joe's Joey. Joey's my brother. Sorry, Joe.
Nobody knows how old
he's insecure
Joe
about
is,
his age.
So we just joke about it and say that he's 68.
Forever 45.
He's 82.
He could.
That's what I heard.
Possibly.
Who knows?
Age well. Your arms age well for an 82-year-old.
Well, they've never seen the sun. That's why.
Yeah, he doesn't go out to see the sun.
Petrified.
Like those little arms you put on chickens. Like those little arms you drape around chickens. They're not really your arms, just draped around you.
Yes.
God, it doesn't help. This light even amplifies, makes me look even whiter. But yeah, I get that shit. I'm pretty pale, but what the hell? It works.
Right?
I'll have to do some. I'll have to adjust the light though.
Less chance of cancer. There you go. You're ahead in life.
There you go.
So, David, I mean, just let everyone at home know, and us too. Tell us about yourself. We know that you're a Tweeterhead now. I know that before you worked with Sideshow Collectibles before
Yep.
that, and then I remember reading an interview with you last week where you kind of talked about before you got into the art direction, the creative process, that you were essentially just trying to get your art out there and going to conventions and waiting in line and doing that whole deal with all the publishers. And I know that you said that you hated that. So kind of maybe just talk about going from that and how you became creative director.
Yeah. So I mean,
that sounds like a cool job.
Yeah,
Really
it's pretty sweet. I mean, it definitely has its, work moments, and some like, oh, this is like this work, it's a lot of people think like, oh, you just get make cool art, do whatever you want all the time. It's like, dude, when you have to deal with emails and approvals and all this other administrative stuff, there's like a lot of it, like, you have to get artists to perform, and a lot of times it's not the easiest thing in the world. So it's a lot of like, kind of herding cats into a bathtub. So there's like a lot of that's part of the job too. But yeah, going back to like where I started, I want to be a comic book artist originally, and then I'm from Colorado. I didn't know like of a comic book school really, because it was like early internet, really, I mean, like it was like 1998. I was just starting high school, graduated 2001. So I mean, internet was there, but it was like obviously nowhere near where it is now. And even online art forums weren't like forum boards weren't really a thing. And that's so I applied to Cal Arts because I'm like, oh, that's like the big art school in the United States, and they focus on animation. So I'm like, maybe I should go into animation. I didn't get into that school, so I went to a local school in Denver, Colorado, and for the animation program, and kind of just like stumbled my way through that with a bunch of other people because it was a brand new program. They didn't even have like, I mean, not to speak ill of past experiences, but basically they started a program with someone who didn't. They're trying to teach you 3D animation in Maya, and they only knew, it was an older guy that only knew Lightwave, which is like a completely different software. So it was like you're stumbling through that, and eventually you kind of mangle together a portfolio, and you're like, well, I guess I got to go to California. That's where art is. So I went out to California. That's where I went to Comic-Con and SIGGRAPH, which is kind of a computer graphics convention for like animation stuff. And went out there with a portfolio, and basically people were either like, hey, you're pretty good, but you're really scattered in terms of what you do, or you don't have any experience, or you're not quite good enough to work here. And so no job later, I found another school called Vancouver Film School, which is in Canada, and they focused like specifically on 3D animation. And that's where I felt like all the jobs are kind of going, like 3D animation was blowing up. Lord of the Rings just came out in movie theaters. So it was like, visual effects was huge. So I'm like, maybe that's where I should go. Maybe like no one's going to really hire like illustrators now or whatever. So went there for a year and a half, focused on 3D modeling, which is before this program now everyone uses called ZBrush. So there's kind of like you start with a cube in the computer and you add individual points, move them out, add more points, move it out. And shit, man, it take you like a month to do now. You can do it in an hour. It's kind of like bonkers how much everything's changed. So I'm like, all right, I'll go to the computer. So did that, came out with a portfolio that focused specifically on like modeling. So I want to get into ILM or WETA, being like a creature designer, like for modeling. And same thing, like, hey, your portfolio is pretty good, but you have like everyone wanted work experience. I'm like, how am I supposed to get work experience? Like I need a job, feels like, like
hire me to get there, man. Come on.
So I went, I was at Comic-Con, at a table with some friends, and, I had my art out, and like literally the last day of Comic-Con was a Sunday. It was a 5-day convention, Wednesday through Sunday. And Sunday at 4 p.m., the con closes at 5. At 4 p.m., like the owner of this company, Gentle Giant, came by. His name's Carl Meyer. He was awesome. Big dude, deep voice, like, hey man, you draw? And I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, yeah, I draw. And we just started talking, and he's like, you play basketball? I'm like, oh yeah, I totally play basketball. Just like, yeah, what else do you want me to So gave me his card. I went back I was still in school in Vancouver, so I went back I was just finishing school. So I went back to Canada and emailed him, figuring like I wouldn't get anything. And he emailed me back like, yeah, let's set up a flight for you, get you down here. And so I flew back to Burbank, and I thought that was going to be the interview process, but he kind of was like, I want to hire you. I just want to show you the studio. So I'm like, I have a job? He's like, yeah, get down here in 2 weeks. I'm like, shit. So anyway, long story short, I got my first job at Gentle Giant being an illustrator designer. So I went like, full circle back to drawing. And Gentle Giant had like 2 pillars of their company. They had like their LLC company, which did like mini bus and statues and stuff like that. Then they had their Gentle Giant Studios, which did external service work, which was like for clients and stuff. So I was really fortunate. I wanted to get into film and to do this one thing really good, but Gentle Giant really gave me the opportunity to kind of like try out a million things. It was like, hey, draw a cartoony this, draw stylized that. Hey, 3D model this. Hey, do decals for this wrestling figure. So it was like wide spectrum of things. And I even got to work on
Friday the 13th. Did they work on some Friday the 13th stuff too from Gentle Giant? Did they? Yeah. Did you work on any of those by chance?
I did. I did.
Oh yeah.
I'd have to think which ones it were, but I know I did minibus. I did. I think I did a minibus for them.
Wasn't there a big Jason? Wasn't there a big Jason too, or am I incorrect on that? I thought that they had something.
Dude, it's been that's like I have that like maybe put really in a weird spot in my head. I don't know, maybe like I'd have to,
because that's like I already have like a whole series of questions. Like, oh my god, now when he gets to Sideshow, did he work on the shit for Jason for Sideshow too? It's like I'm just
yeah. So I know it was funny. We were talking just before the show about how you're a fan of Friday the 13th, and I got to work on that. So Gentle Giant got to work on like a crazy bunch of stuff, and probably one of my favorite projects I got to work on was I got to work for 4 months on Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland as a creature and character designer. So I got to do a bunch of early concept stuff for that. So that was like, my head was like exploding working on that. And
That's
then,
awesome.
Yeah, thank you. And then product design and everything. And I got to take my 3D modeling experience at Vancouver Film School and kind of like, that's when I started to do like 3D mock-ups of things. I think the first thing I did it for was we did a Hellboy 2 statue and Wink. So it was like Wink versus Hellboy. And I was trying to like, instead of drawing it and then trying to make it work in 3D with 2D, I was like, let me just go into Maya and make some cubes and pose them and make sure Wink's punch pose looks cool. Make sure Hellboy's punch pose looks cool. Model them around each other. And this is like basic blocks. It wasn't anything crazy. And then once I was happy with them, then I took screenshots. I would just draw over them and use that. And I'd use the basic 3D model mock-ups is kind of like my proof of concept of like how they could work in 3D. Because when you draw and you try and translate your stuff to 3D, a lot of sculptors are great and just like, oh, it doesn't work here, but let me just tweak this, tweak that, and they're great. And some people need way more of a blueprint. Like, this is the front, this is the side, this is the back, this is the top down, and that makes me want to like show myself up the building. If I have to draw every single view, so this is the way I found like my workaround is like draw a view. Like sometimes I'd start with a sketch. 3D model it, come back and refine it. Sometimes I'll just do a refined illustration, mock up, make sure it works, or I'd start with 3D mock up, then go to 2D. So it kind of like opened up a whole new like world for me, and not just staying with illustration, but using 3D as kind of like a support for that as well. So yeah, I was at Gentle Giant for 3 years. It was great, learned a lot, and then I was Gentle Giant's first in-house concept artist. They had freelancers before, but I was the first one they hired as like a full-time in-house artist. And then
awesome.
Ran a sideshow at Comic-Con. A mutual friend of mine that used to work at Gentle Giant was currently at Sideshow, and I saw him like in passing, and he's like, hey, Sideshow needs an in-house designer. I'm like, we just exchanged cards because I was literally running to the bathroom. I had to go so bad. So I'm like, I'll talk to you later. Just kept running. And I emailed him, went back, and like a month later, I was at Sideshow, and I was their first in-house designer. I started as just a concept artist, and then I was able to bring in my 3D there as well to show them mock-ups, and that's when I started using ZBrush a bit more and kind of like evolving that there and helping them evolve that kind of pipeline a little bit. And so I was there for 10 years, and it was probably like 1 year of just design, then a year of designing with pulling in new artists and coordinating them a little bit. And then a year of like hiring on more artists and kind of like managing them while doing a little bit less art, but still doing some art. And then I think it was like year 4, year 5, I was promoted to art director. And that's mainly focusing on the prototypes. And I worked on all licensed stuff. So Marvel, DC, like Alien, Predator, Jason, like Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, and Lord of the Rings. Like anything Sideshow did license-wise. And then, so I was there for like the next 5 years as an art director. So it was like 10 years total. And then I was working on, like when I was there, that's when we started working on like the He-Man statue line, Thundercat statue line, Ninja Turtle statue line, and a Voltron. So I was like, oh my, because I'm an 80s kid, I was born in 83. I mean, like, I know people say 80s kid is different, but I was born in the early 80s and I grew up in the 80s. I wasn't like already like 10 when He-Man came out. I was like born born when He-Man came out.
Yeah, you weren't like Joe. We get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like probably a year or two, like within like a few months, I was given the opportunity to like work on like Turtles, He-Man, Thundercats, Voltron all at the same time. And I was like losing my mind because, yeah, like Marvel, DC, and Star Wars is cool, but you do years and years of that. It's like, man, I just want to do this. And that was awesome. And then near the end of Sideshow, I was talking to Chad, who owns Tweeterhead. And he's like, hey, I want to continue the He-Man line that you guys started, essentially. And I was like, we Sideshow, we're kind of like done with He-Man at that point. And so we talked. I'm like, dude, we're not making it. He can make it. That'd be awesome. He asked me if I could help with him. And I talked to my boss, Tom, at Sideshow to see if I could do that after hours since we weren't doing it. It wouldn't be a conflict. And Sideshow would sell it exclusively. So they gave me the thumbs up. So during the day, I was at Sideshow. At night, I was helping Tweeterhead with their He-Man statue line, and it was kind of a weird moment where originally you had to go through Universal for approvals and licensing and everything, but then it was transitioning back to Mattel, so it was like a weird 2-year process for us to go from, hey, we want to do this, to being able to make the first statue, which was a transition between Sideshow and Tweeterhead, and that was so we did, like when I was at Sideshow, we did He-Man, Skeletor, She-Ra, 2 versions of Evelyn. And then Chad with Tweeterhead did Orko underneath Sideshow's license. Then he and I were working on Hordak as the next one. But by that time, Sideshow's license ran out. That's when Chad was pursuing it on his own. I was helping him. And then when I parted ways with Sideshow, I just came on and helped Chad full time. And Hordak was our first one. And then the Minion and a few other things. So it's kind of cool going from like one company and starting online and then continuing it with another company, because I know you guys collect all the classics figures. So it's cool like having Mattel started that and having Super 7 kind of like continue it. And that's still my favorite He-Man toy line. And I just like love that that rarely happens. Like you can count on one hand how many times like a line started with a company and continued with another company. And it's like one of those very few rare opportunities to get to do that. And I'm still doing it now. I've been at Tweeterhead for 3 years. And so Chad hired me on as a creative director. So sorry, that's like 1 hour, right? Was that like one?
Was that sort of the biggest driving force with going from Sideshow and going to Tweeterhead? Is those after hours working there, and that was sort of I would rather be here now kind of thing.
Not to. I mean, breakups initiate somewhere. It wasn't my choice to leave Sideshow, but it was copacetic, is all in good terms. Gotcha. So it was like you're at a place for 10 years and want like fresh ideas, and they're kind of like, hey, so
yeah.
I'm like, that's cool. I had a really good run there, and it was like, it wasn't like we said at the same time, like, let's split, or it wasn't me quitting. It was kind of them saying, hey, what do you think about this? I'm like, that's cool. I have this other thing I'm already working on. So it was a nice, easiest transition you could have hoped for, especially going like working on He-Man. It's like, oh, okay, I guess I'll keep working on He-Man stuff. It's not bad, so.
Going back to you initially wanting to be a comic book artist, let's talk about that for a little bit. What books were you into as a kid? What really inspired you? What's your favorite artist, et cetera, et cetera?
Spawn, Greg Capullo, top, easy. Yeah, Greg Capullo is like my art god. I got to meet him at Comic-Con right before the pandemic, and my photo with him was because I couldn't make a normal face. I was like, so I have one photo of me and Greg Capullo, and I'm like.
Which if you at home just Google image David Igo, you'll see in a lot of his photos he is like that.
Turn on safe search though. Turn
oh
it
yeah
on.
Yeah.
No, but it's Spawn. I mean, I'm like when it comes to comics and like Marvel, DC, like I was more in the 90s stuff, so I was definitely like Jim Lee X-Men, the X-Men animated series, like Spider-Man the animated series, Batman the animated series. That's like, I feel like cartoons was my entry to like my gateway to comics. And then when I think I got into Spawn, I think when I was in 4th grade, I think like issue like 20 was already out or something like that. And so I jumped in to Spawn. I was just like, Greg Capullo was already drawing it full time. So like he was just one of my, I had my whole room back home in Colorado, like where I'm from originally. I'm in California now, but my mom kept my bedroom the way it is. It's McFarlane toys, like in the package on the wall. I had Spawn version 1, like the 12 variants of him in the package, and I'd buy the main one and take it out. So it was like like I had a job in high school, didn't need one. All that money went to like McFarlane toys.
Yeah, that
I can
sounds like-
relate to that so much.
So
I was gonna say
Greg-
you enjoy like what's that?
Oh, I was just gonna say. So easiest answer was Spawn, Greg Capullo were my top. Like, But sorry, what were you saying, Tyler?
I was gonna say like because hearing a Spawn fan, like enjoy characters like the Curse, Redeemer, Cygor, all those like early on characters like that. Yeah.
Dude, like when they came out, like Wave 1 was like more the Kenner toys, and Wave 2 was when they had like Redeemer and the Curse. And I'm like, what? Like, it's just like blue. I'm like Clown 2, where he had like the head on his arm and the giant horns. I'm like, this is crazy.
Weren't the movie figures like pretty damn good? Even though the movie is pretty fucking forgettable, but I thought the movie figures were pretty damn good.
Yeah, it's the movie, So it's
well, I'm not saying the movie's a piece of shit. I'm just gonna come out and say that. Even though Michael Jai White, I would still cast him as a modern day Spawn if I was in charge, because I like him. I think he's a good actor. It was just a shitty script with shitty dialogue.
I don't know who I would cast, but I would love to see. I know Todd's been working on one for a while, like his own script now.
I just roll my eyes when I hear, "Hey, Todd McFarlane says, hey, the Spawn movie's coming." It's like a new He-Man movie's coming. Yeah, whatever.
But, we had Spawn the animated series, which was like
it was fucking rocked.
Yeah, that was like click on HBO and like, because I think I was again like in like maybe junior high when that came out. So people like click on HBO and watching like this super R-rated like animation and with nudity, and you're just like, what? It was like when I first watched Ninja Scroll, but with Spawn in it, and I was like, yes, crazy.
And then you keep watching HBO. That way, what was it? What was it? Taxi
Cab Confessions.
What was that on HBO? Or
Yeah,
was that
I remember catching it a couple times when my dad was like in the same room, like, oh boy, this is not going to go over too good.
I remember that one.
And it didn't. Oh yeah, people fucking in the back seat of the cab and stuff like that. Yeah,
I
very weird show.
I missed that one.
But it's supposed to be like reality TV, but with people in the taxi cab just using language or profanity or getting it onto the back seat.
Hey, but I mean that was the stuff back then.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was definitely like, if stuff like that came on, like it took a lot to like keep my attention. It was usually like anime and cartoons and stuff. Was just like, I can't like name like any live action stuff I really watched as a kid growing up, unless it was like my sister watching TV. But
you did see. I'm sure you saw Steel when it came out, though, didn't you?
Steel No, I did not see it when it came out. I saw it.
I had a poster of it from one of those superhero magazines from '97. It had like Batman and Robin, Steel, Spawn. It was like a fold-out print of Shaq. It was like a real shitty picture of him. We're like, so it's gonna be awesome, and I never saw it. So I still haven't seen it to this day.
He just saves those for double features now.
Yeah, double features on the weekend with some good Taco Bell and Don Julio. That's what you gotta do.
I'm with it. I could hang out with you like that. Tyler's one of the people that, in order to watch bad movies, he has to have other people there. Whereas
I can't unless it's Mr. Science Theater where they're doing the comedy for me. I can't.
That is like watching it with somebody else, though. Yeah.
Well, I couldn't sit down and watch Catwoman. I still have not seen that movie, and I'm not going to see that movie. But it would have to be like if we're all sitting here watching, even then like. Your all's comedy better be the best it's ever been for me to sit down and watch that piece of shit.
All right, coming on the channel next week, David returns, and we're gonna do a live commentary.
No, I did it once already. I'm not doing it again. Saw Steel and Catwoman back to back on a Saturday. I'm like, I'm just gonna get this out of the way.
I've never watched Steel, and I love Shaq back in the day when.
Yeah, you guys remember the toys from that movie?
No.
Oh, I remember KB Toys had like the toys. Yeah. They weren't great looking toys.
Who was putting that out? Kenner at the time, or?
Well, Kenner had all the DC stuff because they did the DC superheroes back in the mid '90s. You guys know that was
kind of like an offshoot from that.
I mean, it's based on the John Henry character, but I don't.
I don't know.
Why are we? I don't know. Why are we?
Yeah, why are we talking about Steel?
Why are we doing?
That's all David's fault.
Talking about this.
He was talking about it before the show. So
yeah,
I'm just better nerd than you guys are. I'm sorry. I'm just like, well, I gotta do my part so I can have an opinion on this stuff. So.
Yeah. Here.
I just never heard anybody bring up Steel. That's why I'm like, okay, I gotta. Look at that. Yeah. Well, I guess it's not.
Yeah, Kenner did put it out.
Yeah, Kenner did. Yeah, I'm telling you, they were doing all the DC stuff in the '90s or mid '90s. Well, hell, early 90s because they did the Batman animated series, the Superman animated series, Justice League, I think.
Wonder if they
That makes
managed to
sense.
reuse,
No, that would have been Mattel.
Probably did that. So
reuse more Demolition Man stuff.
Yeah.
No, that would have been Mattel. My bad.
Yeah, Mattel would have done that. Yeah. But yeah, I think David's the only person I've ever known who's ever seen Steel. I'm still just I guess I just can't let it go. It's just kind of one of those little novelties. Like you hear about this kind of movies, like, but you don't think anybody's actually seen it. And here it is, like over almost 30 years later, I've met someone who's seen Steel. Like,
and it was recently. It was like 3 years. It was like right before the pandemic. As like at the time, like I was 36. I was like, you know what, I gotta finally do.
This is something I have to do.
Gotta watch this. I gotta watch Catwoman. You know, I just gotta do it. You know,
is this like before the pandemic hit, and then you're like, oh my god, what have I done? I've unlocked.
Maybe that was the ripple effect.
Steel, or it's like you're like, oh my god, well, I got nothing else to do. I'm watching.
Yeah,
Steel.
wasn't in a lab, wasn't a bat in a wet market. It was Dave Igo watching Steel and Catwoman.
Pandemic.
Would you say those are the worst of the DC films, though? Like of the 90s that we got, you know?
I mean, it's hard for me to say. I mean, like there's things I think I try to find good in a lot of stuff because it's like, you know, you live one life. I don't like shitting on things all the time, but like I was definitely disappointed in Wonder Woman 84 is probably the most recent. Like, oh man, I
really like the first one, but
love the first one. You know, just thought the second one was like, I'm like, why would like it's just like
there's so many stupid things in it. It's infuriating.
Yeah, want to love it. I mean, but I love like a lot of people. We're, you know, not the biggest fans of the Zack Snyder universe, but I'm a huge fan of like those movies. Most of them, obviously, like there's issues. I love Man of Steel. Like that's my favorite movie.
Oh my god! Where's my gun?
No, Man of Steel is.
I was so infuriated walking out of that movie.
You like Costner walking towards the tornado?
That's like one of the issues I had with it, but that wasn't a deal breaker for me. You know, like a lot of people that's a deal breaker. I'm like, if you remove that one moment, like everything else, I wouldn't like. I love so much about that movie.
Well,
like,
what about Meteor Man? Do you like Meteor Man?
Dude, I remember Meteor Man, but I never saw it. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, you're not missing anything. Of course,
great movie.
Joe.
You gotta see.
Add it to the list.
No,
fantastic.
Don't.
Is it a comedy?
Great.
I'm sorry, I don't know that.
It's a comedy, but it's a great movie. You have to see it. Trust me.
And only Joe.
I'm going to pair that one with is Pluto Nash because I've never seen Pluto Nash.
No, don't see that though. No, not that. But Meteor Man, fantastic. You'll love it. Trust
Joe,
me.
how can you say that as a black man, Joe?
Is it okay? It just made sense to me.
Yeah, she gets it.
Meteor Man is fantastic. I don't care what you say. It's an amazing movie. You'll love it.
We'll have to get it in the Marvel comic adaptation for next Christmas.
Even as a kid, I forgot about that. Even as a kid, I saw the poster for that and thought it looked lame.
You have no taste, Rebecca. Well, let's get back. Let's actually discuss more of what you've done.
Well,
now, I do have a question.
Well, yeah, go ahead, Joe. Go with your question.
No, I do have a question though. Like when it comes to stuff like, well, for example, Masters of the Universe and doing all this stuff now. Now, you know, there's obviously a lot of cult characters that people really get into and love. I don't think something like that influences like what you guys decide to put out. Now, I guess what I'm saying is, do you have ideas inside the studio yourself? Like, we should do this. We'd love to do this. But is it more Mattel telling you, we kind of want you to focus on this character or make this character? How do those decisions come about?
Mattel's actually been a really awesome supporter of, you know, and it helps having like the established characters from like when we were at Sideshow. When I was at Sideshow and it was through Universal, when it transitioned over from Mattel, it was very easy to kind of like show them the line of like what was done and be like, hey, we want to continue this line and do characters that haven't been done, like Hordak and Trapjaw and Merman and Beastman. And they were super supportive of it. So for like, we have the, you know, what Nathan's showing right now is our 6-scale classic He-Man on Battle-Cat. That's like kind of like a standalone piece. It's not part of the Legends line, which is where we started. But yeah, He-Man, like, you know, one thing I wanted to do eventually was do a classic take on He-Man on Battle-Cat, because no one's ever done him on Battle-Cat as a statue. They've done him like separately, like Pop Culture Shock at the time did like the quarter scale He-Man and Battle-Cat like separate. So I just knew, like, even though we were doing the Legends line, which is really like fun and kind of like our take on like what would we do if we could make a movie or live action TV show or video game, I knew I wanted to do like a really classic take for classic fans, and I knew I wanted to do that by jumping right into He-Man on Battle Cat, and I basically I have the classics figures up. You can't see them, but they're up there. I have the Battle Cat, and I'm just like, this is kind of like our starting Bible for those, like vintage meets classics, teeny bit of revelation in there too, and just kind of like a little bit of like, hey, maybe instead of this, a little bit more of that, because that might work better as like a high-end collectible kind of a thing instead of like what worked for the toy. So yeah, so sorry, Joe, that didn't answer, but yeah, we're very much like, we pitch Mattel, and Mattel says yay or nay, and they've been extremely supportive of what we do. So
okay, because I mean, there's like a lot of characters like Ninja or Clamp Champ, Scareglow. I mean, these are some characters that are super cult following, and they have a great following. They look just badass in that form. But like, do you sit there and think, is this enough? Do you think enough people want it? I mean, is that what holds you back on some decisions, or what?
Yeah, so a big thing is like how much we can actually make in a year, like how many statues we can make. So it's like, we're averaging like, I think the first year was just Hordak and Minion, and last year was the Skeletor bust, Tila, and Hordak variant, and I feel like there's a fourth one. And then that was 2 years ago. And then last year was Merman and Trap Jaw and the Tila variant and Skeletor. So we did like 4 in 2022. So this year we're looking to do like 4 or 5. So it's kind of like, what are the next characters we need to do? We don't want to like overwhelm with just males or just good guys or just bad guys. So it's kind of like, what's that balance? You want to make sure you hit core characters, but so that's why we came out like with Tila right away. Right after Hordak came out with Tila, we did the Skeletor life-size bust because I knew I wanted to do like a life-size bust of Skeletor because I wanted one I would really want. And then we hit like Merman, Trapjaw, and we kind of like teased Beastman at PowerCon because I knew I want to get like, those are my 3 main evil warriors. I know a lot of people
get a Triclops. We got to get.
I know Triclops up there too, but I think you just think of like and this is where it gets a little bit weirdly subjective, and I'm not right all the time, I've been wrong plenty of times, but like, what would visually justify like a $500 statue, not only with like hardcore collectors, but like the common consumer of like, oh, that looks cool. Like, there are like quite a few people like sometimes will buy something that like we sold like 1,000 Skeletor life-size busts, and some of those people aren't even like the biggest He-Man fans. They're big like horror fans. They're just like, that thing just looks awesome. I want that. So it's like find that balance of like obviously appeasing all the He-Man fans, but then also like what has that broad appeal. Like we just set up at Comic-Con, what would draw people in, and
I think a Scareglow could that would be just wicked. That would look badass, a Scareglow, if you could just.
We may or may not have a Scareglow. We actually talked about doing a Scareglow a couple of years ago on another like video chat, and it got pushed back. It gets brought up every once in a while. It got pushed back quite a bit because it was going to be.
He'll sell.
So he was going to be a fifth scale bust with arms, and we were going to do like a fifth scale bust line at like, kind of like fill out the collection. But then we're like, what? Let's just give him legs. Like, so we just moved him out because other things were moving along. So we've done a full design of Scareglow, and he's definitely on the list. Like, you have to get like other characters first. So we teased. So we showed at PowerCon, we showed the He-Man life-size bust, which we also Tweeterhead just put out a teaser in the newsletter on Friday, like an updated teaser on Friday. So that's on Tweeterhead's social. So we have a He-Man bust. We have Sorceress that we teased. We have Beastman that we teased. And we have a Skeletor and Panther classic style to go with the He-Man that Nathan was showing earlier. So that's kind of like most of what's going to be this next year, with maybe an exception.
What about Faker? Anything with Faker? Possibly?
Faker would be cool. I think it would make more sense if we timed him with like another character and like kind of figured out some swap out parts, maybe make him like a variant play, something like that. So.
But you'll keep Stratos off the list, right? No Stratos, because that's like a really shit-tastic. Well, okay, never mind. I had to do that for Rebecca. He is shitty though. Don't ever do Stratos, please. Don't.
I think Stratos could be cool. It's kind of like Buzz Off is a weird one where I think he like looks kind of goofy in the classic toy.
What?
I think it's weird.
No.
His weird smiley face.
No.
Like, come on, he has like a smiley face.
He does have a smiley face, admittedly, but
he has this weird smiley face kissy lip thing. Dude, I love Buzz Off. I'm just saying, like, how do you make
that? Doesn't sound like you like Buzz Off.
How do you make that $500 statue? So we actually did. So I've done some concept busts in the past. I kind of did I showed him at PowerCon a few years ago. I did my own take on like Merman, Beastman, and Trapjaw before Tweeter had made them. It was kind of like, I think it was right at the end of when I was still at Sideshow. And so I did those. I kept doing like, and I used those as springboards for the statues. Things change quite a bit from like my merman bust, my beastman bust to like what would be in the statue, especially Trapjaw changed quite a bit. But it helped me like work out ideas of what I think would work and what wouldn't work in the statue world. So I actually did do a Buzz Off bust. I posted on my Instagram. So I did that as kind of like a proof of concept of kind of like melding classic Buzz Off with quite a bit of 2000X inspiration, which I think 2000X did a really good job of kind of like evolving that character for like what he could look like. And I think some things like they made him a little bit too lanky. So I was trying to like bring back.
Yeah. Huh? You're a little skinny on him. Yeah, I know what you mean. Now, when it comes to like Hordak, I was going to say, now I'm just getting giddy because the thought of all the shit you guys can do, but I mean, I love when you can bring more of an organic kind of look to some of the characters. I'm just envisioning what you can do with Mantenna, Leech, Grizzlor, those kind of characters. Even Modulog, which I know that's kind of really way out there with things you could make, but I can only imagine how creepy that character could look too.
I'm definitely a bigger fan of like the monster-y. I'm a creature nerd. You know, like I went to school and want to do that. So, you know, like when it comes to creatures, characters, those are some of my favorites. Like I have the NECA 5th scale like clawful statue from 2000X. I love.
Yeah, he's a monster. Yeah, he's a monster.
Nice. Yeah, I have a small one. I have the small one in here. I have the big one in a box. You don't have a place to put him yet, but I have my Skeletor and Trapjaw literally right behind the computer. So those are my merman bust. I didn't do a merman full statue. I'm like, God, merman's my baby. So
I love to see Too Bad in that style there. Like I'm looking at Hordak. I'd love to see Too Bad.
Too Bad would be awesome too. Like Whiplash is another. Like I love all like any of those bright colored weird.
I would love to see what you do.
They're the most badass.
What, Rebecca?
I said I would love to see what you do with Whiplash.
Yeah, Whiplash would be fun. Web Store's another like doing that spider.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah, that'd be awesome.
I don't know if you guys saw the 3D animated show on Netflix, but that one had a really amazing Web Store redesign. I was like, I
didn't see that one.
Awesome. That show definitely aimed at kids. Definitely has some things I'm not the biggest fan of. Definitely has a lot of cool stuff. Really creative retelling of the story. Some stuff I know hardcore fans will never like, but I really love.
Stand up.
I love a lot of like what they change because again, it's like trying to pull in to me, it's like trying to pull in a new generation that will then hopefully appreciate where it came from before, like kind of a gateway, you know, and kind of like, hey, here's this, you know, universe that exists. And there's some really cool stuff, but the Web Store redesign in that show is awesome. So you guys need to like watch a couple clips of that or something when you're done with it.
Joe and I, because I watched 2 seasons of it, and I see where you're coming from. Because when Joe and I had talked about it, obviously, I'm glad you stressed that it's aimed at kids. But when Joe and I were talking about it, I'm like, for what it is, at least they tried to do something different. So I appreciate it in that regard. And I'm with you. Some things they did, I was like, what are you doing? But that was an easier pill for me to swallow as Tyler. Tyler's just we're building them up here.
Yeah, I'm going to be polite about this Revelation and that show. I'm just, you know, I've said my piece plenty of times. I don't need to say it anymore.
There's a lot of, again, like it's weird because there's definitely like things, and this is something I've come to appreciate a lot more, being like making statues and toys and stuff now for, God, I can't believe it's almost been like, what was it? 3 years, Jungle Giant 10 and 16 years now I've been doing this. And it's like making a statue is really hard. Like a lot of people are like, oh, it's easy to do this. It's like, sure, if you want to make it with your friends and just like, you don't give a shit. Like you can just, sure, anyone can make a statue. Anyone can reach out to a digital sculptor, get some money, make a prototype. That's it. But when you deal with a company, other approvals, production, a licensor, artists that you care about, like there's like so many other things that come into influence like how this project is going, like the trajectory of where this is going to go. And, you know, creative is part of it for sure. And I always look at that and I'm like, man, it's so hard just to make a statue. This should be the easiest thing in the world. Just like make it. I just always take that experience and just like multiply that by 1 billion. And that's like what it has to be to make a cartoon show, a TV show, a movie. To me, it's like, it's a miracle whenever we get anything that's decent. And it's an extra miracle when we get anything that we like all love. You know, it's like how many people's opinions, how many producers are involved, how many opinions. I mean, like when I was at Gentle Giant, I got to work on a couple of things for external clients, and I was in one meeting. There was like literally 8 suits, and it was me and 2 other people from Gentle Giant. And how many people have like the worst ideas and the worst opinions? It's like, and I get it's like totally subjective, but it's like, man, you can't even like. Some of my best experiences are people that like know how to work with an artist and listen to an artist and go like. One thing I had to work on, which is like now I think I can talk about because it never got made, but it was like this Bigfoot movie, and the pitch was it was gonna be like Bigfoot. It was gonna be like Jaws in the woods, and I was like, oh, I'm in. And I got to work on this Bigfoot design, and I did all these iterations for this Bigfoot. And anytime I talked to there's 2 directors, and when I was talking to them, I gotta have these like meetings with me, one of the person from Gentle Giant, and then the 2 directors on the other side, and they were like, oh, well, we don't like this. Why'd you do that? And I would explain why I did that, and they're like, oh, that makes sense. That's a great idea. Let's do that. And I'm like, cool, sweet. We're on. They wanted Bigfoot to be like this nocturnal creature. During the day, he doesn't exist. At night, he comes out. So I didn't give him any browers. I gave him these like huge eyes hidden behind all this hair. And they're like, oh, we really want a thick brow. And I was like, well, technically, you have a big brow to protect yourself from the sun. So I was trying to go with like more of a nocturnal thing and like focus on the teeth. And they're like, let's do that. It was just like, it was cool. I was like, oh, that's,
yeah.
And that was one of the only times that really happened, because a lot of times you sit in a room with suits and business people and they all have opinions.
They don't get it.
Yeah. Or they have some experience of like we have a high risk. We have to have a certain amount of money to return on this thing. And we have to do this to make it maybe reach this new market. And there is a lot of risk in that on their side, and it's just, it's hard. No one has a crystal ball. Sometimes it's obviously, as we know as fans, there's a source material. You should start from that and evolve it to make it make sense for the medium, not so much like reinvent it just because, unless you have a good reason. Like, to me, the new 3D He-Man show is a great reinvention to bring in hopefully a new generation of fans. It wasn't made for like the 5 of us necessarily. It was made for, a new generation that needed to like, make any random kid that's not one of our kids. I don't have kids, but like, whoever has kids, right? No kid's gonna watch the old Filmation cartoon show unless their parents make them watch it.
Tyler, he does have a good point, because I don't see kids just randomly discovering the Filmation show. It is kind of more of that parent that grew up with it that sits up like, hey, watch one of Daddy's old shows kind of thing.
No, but I think what Tyler would be thinking, what I'm thinking is like if the Filmation cartoon, let's say hypothetically, that was on TV right now for anybody to watch, I think kids would watch it. They do watch good cartoons with good stories. They will watch it. But finding something from 40 years ago, of course they're not going to find it because we'd have to show them. But I think that, yes, Master Universe has what it was back then. If it was like, in fact, just to give you an example, we had this one channel that I get with an antenna, there was kind of still rabbit ears, but they actually had He-Man and She-Ra in the morning.
Oh yeah.
And it was doing good.
That's what's the name of that? I would see it at the dentist office all the time. It's like the channel that plays like Bonanza and shit like that.
Just weird, but the thing is, it actually was having good ratings for it. Kids and people were watching it. It was actually doing well. So it's just, I can understand when you're trying to reinvent something that moves with the times, but Masters of the Universe and fantasy is just that. It's fantasy. That shit didn't exist when we were kids. We didn't have these different planets and creatures and beings. It's the world of make-believe. And that's why that's timeless, and it can work for any generation of kids if put out and done properly.
But on the flip side of that too, though, you have like the original mini comic and people that like bought the toys, got the mini comic, then they'd watch the Filmation show, be like, what is this garbage? Because it was like nothing like the mini comic, which was like way more Conan, Space Barbarian. Like,
well, what's weird? Now, here's another thing with that too, that some people think they always want to say it's Conan like, it's gritty. It's like, no, the fuck it wasn't. I said, go back and read. The shit didn't even make sense half the time. I said it had a good art style. I said people are confusing an art style with the actual story. So there was nothing gritty. There was no decapitations. There was no blood. I
agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't mean it's like a one-to-one to Conan, but I would say tonally though, visually, and even like, story-wise, they way more heavily overlap tonally wise, right? But in terms of like visually and even some of the story concepts, I'd say they're quite different to me. And it's kind of funny that just how much kids like accepted it, like little kids, but like I think at a certain age, if people bought the toy first and read the comics and watched TV show, you're kind of as disappointed as when you saw the cross-sell art for Merman.
I know some people who went through that who were like, they're not fans of the Filmation show, but they were fans of the comic books before that and kind of what they were setting up. So I do know some people like that.
Yeah, and those are the fans that I want to choke sometimes, just to say real quick. It's because their whole
stop
existence...
getting violent.
No, I'm not violent. I'm just saying you'd like... Okay, well, I would like to choke the shit out of them. But, I mean, what drives me nuts is you think some of these people, their whole world revolves around... Yeah, it revolves around 4 mini comics that if you'd ask these fans who are so hardcore dedicated about it, tell me about what was the story in those 4? They don't even have a fucking clue. They don't know. All they know is, but the art was real good. Yeah, the art was great, but they don't know the stories. It's like Masters has evolved way past 4 damn mini comics. We have so many mini comics. We have the DC comics. We have the Golden Books. We have everything, the cartoon. And if it wasn't for the cartoon, Masters wouldn't be where it is today. That was just a side rant. But hey, back to you and your work.
I do love how passionate you get about it, Joe.
He's passionate? No way.
No, but it just sometimes it's just the shit will drive me crazy. But
we all go on our rants. It's okay.
Yeah, it's just a rant. But go ahead.
But going back to that, with Tyler, Tyler's experience was kind of taking it all in and just accepting all of it for what it was, right? Tyler, you weren't like, you never felt different reading the mini comic as opposed to like, this is completely different here.
Yeah, all of it was the same, from the Golden Books, the mini comics, the live action film, Filmation. It was all together. Like, that's He-Man, that's Skeletor, that's Skeletor. Like, I'm not someone's like that. Even New Adventures, like, that's He-Man, that's Skeletor. It's a different story, but I bought it as a kid. Like, I get why people didn't like it, but I'm like, I was so accepting of all of it. I'm not to say every episode was great, but I bring it on. I was so hungry for He-Man. It didn't matter. Yeah.
I think that's a unique thing for. Oh, sorry. I think that's like a unique thing that was very special for me with like 80s properties growing up. Is like classic Star Wars fans is like Mark Hamill's Luke Skywalker is very much that's the only Luke Skywalker there is. Darth Vader has to have this many yellow dots or whatever. It's like that. It's very like scientific to what is not Star Wars, and that's changed only I would like kind of recently, but still like Mark Hamill's Luke Skywalker. Always and forever, but we were, I think, kind of spoiled being raised accepting like to me, Merman's my favorite character, but the cross-sell art, the action figure, and Filmation were 3 very different Mermans, and I love that. Sure. And Ninja Turtles the same way, where it's like the original comic, then you have the cartoon show, and the live action movie. It's 3 very different takes on Ninja Turtles, but it's Ninja Turtles. Like He-Man, like you said, you put it perfectly, Tyler. Like the movie, the New Adventures, cartoon, comic book, toy, 2000X, like it's all that. And like, you might like one a little bit more than the other. You think things work. And that's one thing, like I always try to like spill into this, like the statues that Nathan's showing is like that's my favorite thing about what I get to do is like take all those elements and try and make like, what's the Tila I would want to see next? Like put them all in the blender and what are the, hopefully in my opinion, the better elements that like, float to the top kind of a thing.
And that's like a prime example of how I would want to see Tila depicted in a live action film.
Exactly.
Like, she's beautiful. She has a beautiful body. She looks like she could kick the shit out of you. Yeah. So that to me is Tila, and I'm like, of course I can't see society making Tila look that damn good because they would have her. You can't show her legs. You can't show her cleavage, you can't make reference to her ass, you can't show any kind of skin, and she's got to be we won't get into that, but it's just all these depictions, like that's how I could see a live action Skeletor, a live action Hordak.
Exactly, and that's what I always thought with these Tweeterhead statues is if I was in charge of a movie, I would just hire you guys right away and be like, okay, well, we have our Teal already, we have Merman already, we have this already. So how would you feel about that? I mean, obviously, I kind of know the answer.
I'd give it to them for free. I'd be like, you don't have to pay us. Just take them and make them look like I don't want, like, sure, give us credit, but I'm not doing it for, like, the glory. It's like, just, take this and improve
honor the characters, for God's sake.
Like, just, it's just, I would love it. I mean, again, like, it's where I was channeling I want to work in film as a creature designer, like, for, going through school.
It shows because those feel like movie designs. And when I'm making a costume, I like to think of how would I make this in a movie? If I was hired for a movie, how would I make it? That's why I chose your Tila to do, because that's the perfect Tila for a movie, I think.
Thanks. And there's the world of cosplay too is like crazy change from where it was like, 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It's bonkers. And a lot of times too, like I'll look at, cosplay, because a lot of times people will reinterpret stuff like in cosplay. It's not just like, let me take this one for one, but like exactly like you said, Rebecca, they take it as what would I do to make this functional? Because I have to walk around this thing all day and I want to be comfortable and it has to function. And yeah, that's not always top of my mind when we're making statues. Is like a lot of it's like what looks cool and hopefully what would function. But we reference a lot of like what people are doing in that world too, and it's bonkers. Like I love that everyone's kind of like putting in a little bit into the mix of the bigger pot essentially. So
is that your merman there? Is that your vision? What I'm looking at right there, or was that combined with a lot of people?
That was one I worked on with this sculptor designer Amilcar Fong, and we worked on it together. And it started from like my mini bus, which got changed, quite a bit. But there's like elements in there that I really want to make sure. Like I love the, the original.
I love the extra flair of everything, just onto the arm or the face. It's like all those extra details.
His eyes look
different
absolutely
colors
incredible.
Thanks. Yeah, we actually just got our first not our first, but our final production sample in like a week or two ago, and we just did some really extensive photography with our with our photographer Cassie, and she did we shot the Merman final production with our Skeletor prototype and our Trap Jaw prototypes. We show all three together because it's the first time we've been able to show all three.
It's creepy. Awesome. Look at that. That's just creepy.
Thanks,
awesome there. Yeah. Damn.
Yeah, that was Amilcar did great with working with me on the design, because it started again with my mini bus. Then we did some edits to that and evolved it. Then we worked with the 2D artist, kind of like refine things so we could show Mattel, because you have to like get approval from Mattel on the concept stage. So a lot of times we start in 3D first. Like I was telling you with like when I did that Hellboy stuff at Gentle Giant, sometimes we'll start with 3D first, work out some ideas, draw over it to show Mattel like what we want to go with. They give us edits. It's easy to make on like rough digital models, and then we'll evolve it more in 3D after that. So design for us is very much a 3D and 2D hybrid process, if not leaning a little bit more in 3D, because you just work things out totally differently, But Merman was really fun, especially making that sword work, bringing a little bit like there's a little bit of bonefish, like in the I don't know sword terminology the best, but like as like the base that connects it to the hilt kind of a thing, and then the rest I want it to look like it was made like all of his armor and his sword. I didn't want to look like they're found objects just put on him, but they're almost like made, for lack of a better term, like an underwater blacksmith, kind of like his, he has a culture, he has a tribe, or he has like a kingdom. And how do they make their things? It's not just like, let me just go grab stuff and put it on. It's like, how would they make what they're making? Like and how are they making it? Now, I like not knowing those answers. It's kind of fun. Like, well, this is what it could look like. Then it's like, hopefully it leaves people's imaginations going wild of like how it could have been made, So, and like you said earlier, Joe, it's fantasy, it's like, you don't have to explain everything. Just like, what's a parsec? Who cares? Just like,
exactly.
Cool stuff, Sorry, rant over.
No, have you guys done any horror stuff yet with Tweeterhead? Do you guys do horror stuff?
Horror?
Like, yeah.
Like Jason? No.
We do horror stuff, like those hookers I have in my basement.
That's always... So I actually had a speech problem growing up. I couldn't pronounce my R, so like I have a hard time saying horror. So I'm always like, horror. And I'm like, no, horror. I'm like, it's like...
I did the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like... But we work with Elvira. We have her so we make her. So that's not like
cool.
Like horror, like in the slasher R-rated movie sense, but in a way it's fun, whimsical. And Cassandra's awesome. I've got to meet her a few times. She's such a cool.
She's a sweetheart.
She's on screen. It's her in real life. There's like zero ego. She's great with like her fans. She's great. Like she's a friend of a friend. So I've met her through my friend, and she's always treated me like as if just another. Like one of like in the circle, So she's always very cool. And then So then Tweeterhead, we're doing like this original line. We're calling it Myths and Monsters. And we showed it at Monsterpalooza last year. We did a Gillman. So it's like our own take on like what a creature Gillman underwater thing could be, like Merman, you know. And so we showed him off unpainted as like a 75% finished sculpt. So we're working on him. We want him to come out this year. And then we showed concept art at PowerCon this year from Medusa and a Wolfman. So it's not just classic monsters. We want to show like other things, and Medusa we thought would be a good. Hopefully, we'll see if Gillman does well, then the line will continue. But then Medusa would be the second in the line after that. So it's kind of like
your Medusa.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, is it too hard to get like? I mean, for examples with like the license for Jason, Michael Myers, Freddy, because so many people are already doing stuff. Is that the reasons probably why you guys aren't going after that, or is it like?
So personally, I never want to do a movie likeness anything ever again because it's very pass fail. It's like you have to make it look exact like this thing, the wrinkles being this exact, and then paint it exact. Like I'm having fun as creative, like making He-Man statues. Like when it comes to make this look exactly like this other thing. Otherwise, it like if one thing's slightly off, no one buys it. It's like, dude. So if someone wants to do that, like I think companies are really good at doing that. Like I think Hot Toys obviously is like one of the best at like 1-to-1, you know, make it look exactly like that. Prime One's been doing great with statues. PCS Premium Collectible Studios is doing great with some of their likeness stuff. But we did a Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman last year, and that was all Chad, my boss partner, and that's him. And whenever we do a likeness piece, it's gonna be because he wants to do one. I personally have like zero desire to do like Jason for you. I'm sorry.
Just like, well, you gotta get this part 8. I'm getting to it because we've never got part 8. Damn it, that's the only version we didn't get. Well, they even gave us fucking Roy from part 5, but not 8, and that is such a distinct, cool look with this slimy, wet look, the yellow mask. I mean, he's got a badass look. People will buy him.
Basically, David, what is happening is Joe is trying to butter you up for this, so you can send him something for free.
No, I ain't doing that. Could you though?
Here's that Gillman.
That looks good.
That's badass.
That is. So I like cool.
That. I have to get.
Yeah, we're gonna do an alternate head with that because that's more of a classic head. We're gonna do like another like more kind of gnarly head. I like doing that with any statue, like Trapjaw. We have the more classic round head. We have the more gnarly, the one that's shown there.
I see the 2000X head on there, or 2000X inspired.
Yeah, ish. It's like without the loop on. I love you guys, but I hate the loop on the head. I think it makes sense as like the toy and whatever. So like with the classic head that's shown in the middle on the right there, made it more of like a handle or something that could like.
Yeah, it looked like a handle, almost like a cable, something too. It looked like.
Dude, that's pretty cool. I want to mess with that fucking dude.
Yeah,
look at that arm.
I wanted his modern, like when I was Trapjaw was a really fun one just to go since we're showing him, but he was the longest one to make. He was the hardest and longest one to make.
I can see why.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, it's just like hopefully people see it and they appreciate it. But like so much into making his pose was really hard to get right because pose, it's just like every pose has been done in the statue world, so you don't want to like repeat something. You want to work within the line. You want to work on his own. And the original pose for him was actually like an arm up. I wanted him to like have his mechanical arm up in the air, like he was like holding an invisible gun, like just kind of like looks super powerful, kind of like 1 foot up. And when he doesn't have a hand holding a gun, this is like just a cannon arm. It looked weird, but I was really trying to make it work. And eventually we're just like, dude, we gotta go with a different pose. I took the file and was able to just like mangle it into that new pose and work with the sculptor Geo on it. And that was probably the hardest thing, but making like the idea for like the visual language for him was like something that came pretty early on, which I was really happy with. Worked on the design early on with these guys called the Kacherik brothers, and they're awesome. But I was like, how do we take? I have the 2000X NECA statue right behind me, and it's like the 2000X Trapjaw is like my favorite. I'm like, fuck, how do I like compete with that essentially? Like, how do I make people that have that statue want this statue additionally so they have both? Because to me, it's like that one works great with everything else we've made. It's so good. It's like, to me, the best He-Man thing ever made, like was that Trapjaw statue. I'm like, how do I add like performance anxiety? I was like, how do we do this?
Well, you did a hell of a job because that's an amazing looking statue.
Yeah.
Thanks. So like trying to get, I try to give I think as a creative, it's whenever you have like a blank canvas and a blank check, it could sound awesome, but then you could just spin out of control. So I try to set up like ideas and rules, give myself a box to work within. so the box for him was, all right, how to make mechanics work in like my version of Eternia. Like, how do I make the technology versus magic like balance really well? And so I didn't want to do tubes or wires because I thought 2000X did that really good. So how do I make things like looks contained? And so I was like, oh, everything has to look like mechanical. Oh, maybe it could be steampunky gears and stuff like that. But I'm like, but how do I make it look like evil? And so I totally channeled like what Weta Workshop did with orcs for Lord of the Rings. I wanted everything to look like steampunk orc future tech without any wires or buttons or anything like that. So very mechanical, very like gear chain. Like there's it's hard to tell in these photos, but if you saw the piece in person, like in the elbow gap area, essentially like where the bicep meets the forearm, there's like what looks like bike chains. So I want it to look like this very mechanical thing. And even someone at this most recent PowerCon, which was like one of the most flattering things, they walked up to like, dude, I'm looking at this. I feel like I can hear it. And I was like, yes.
I see it. Yeah.
So I wanted it to be like not him with a bunch of like, oh, I pop my arm off and I have this other weapon on my belt and I put that on because I want it to be like this really big, intimidating looking thing. So I was like, all right, I know I'm going with like steampunky orc armor. So I want it to feel very handmade, very like lots of sharp edges and stuff. So like it looks like
I love that sharp blade going around right there on his mechanical arm. It's just god damn. I mean, it looks like you just do not want to touch him. You don't even want to attempt to fight this guy.
Yeah, even his knee pads have like multiple spikes on. He has little spikes on the end of his boot. Like, so like if he kicks you, you're dead. If he shoulder butts you, you're dead.
Headbutt you, he'll kill you with the one head with that point on his head. He can even headbutt you. You know, you should just send that to me so I can look at it up close though. Just do that.
There's Joe again.
Yeah, please. The show.
So I wanted to. So instead of having like his other weapons on his belt, I was like, you know, if he's a kind of like a self-made like cyborg in a way, like what if he had power tools on his belt instead? So like I wanted to so that was one thing. So on his side, he has like a buzz saw, which people think looks like a pizza cutter, which is hilarious. He has like a laser cutter. And I'm like, those are the two things he would need that he can't do with like his hands, you know, is like something that could cut and something that could like, you know, two things that essentially could cut because he could hammer with his hands or something. And then I'm like, but I want to show all the things I know about Trapjaw, and the two main things are, you know, he has like a hook hand, and then he has like a cannon arm, or like the two to me most iconic ones. So I'm like, how do I merge those together? And I just kind of like thought of like what are those old rifles like from like the Civil War, like
the muskets.
Yeah, like a musket. So I'm just like, all right, there's gonna be a giant cannon musket thing that looks like it transforms. So I always jokingly called it like a Swiss knife of death. And then we want to get the classic arm in there too. So we did a whole arm swap out with the classic hook so we can get like the best of both worlds, you know? So yeah.
That honestly is the most badass fucking Trapjaw statue and one of the most amazing statues I've seen for Masters ever. That is incredible.
Yeah, I dare say it's better than the Four Horsemen's
It is. It is.
Yeah.
It's just movie ready.
Yeah, that's the biggest goal is make it like movie ready. Like again, like even like his I was thinking like if he lost his arm in battle, he made his mechanical arm to go on top of it. Like how would he attach it? That's why I have like ratchet straps going across his chest. It's not like a buckle because you need two hands to do that. So a ratchet strap, you need just like one hand to pull that on.
Cool.
So even thinking of stuff like that, and like the power tools have like little things on it. So like he could pull the power tool off and it's like connected to something in case he only has one hand. So if he needs to drop it, you know, because he's doing something.
I love how you're thinking of the mechanics of it and not just like the design, you know, like, hey, this will look cool. You're actually thinking of why this is working.
I try because, again, like I want, like Rebecca said, I want it to be like, I want someone to look at it and go, oh, that could work in the movie, not give anyone any reason not to use in the movie, you know? So it's like, Then that belt buckle was really fun. Just I want to make that like belt buckle life size and just like this gnarly.
Rebecca, tell John to get on that next cosplay doing that.
I wanted that to be like a UFC or WWE belt, you know, like one that you'd hold over your head when you want to fight, kind of a thing. So we made it just like huge and gnarly.
We could bore Rebecca right now and just be like, David, do you like wrestling? Did you like wrestling back in the day? Do you still watch it a little bit?
Never watched wrestling growing up. I've appreciated it more recently, like just because I have friends are into it and they're like, dude, Dave, it's like this, and they started explaining the story to me and it's cool, but like it just feels like there's like certain soap operas. There's so much to catch up on to like get it to what's happening now. I'm just like that's the thing. Yeah. So I'm just like I'd rather go back and rewatch like a lot of like the I'd rather go back and rewatch 2000X show or rewatch certain Ninja Turtle shows I haven't I haven't seen like the 3D Nickelodeon Ninja Turtle show, which I hear is great. So I want to like jump
the 2012 show.
Like I think
the one
so.
From 2012. Yeah, that was very damn good for the most part. Yeah. That was an exceptional turtle show.
Like the Thundercats show that came out in the 2011, whatever that one was. Like that was
I like that
great too. Yeah, it's like, man, I'd rather go back and like rewatch that rather than try and like kind of like reinvigorate because all that stuff like fuels what I'm doing for work. I feel like watching wrestling and stuff, it's just not like where my brain is. Like I appreciate it's over there, but it's like I have already like cool stuff I'm invested in. I'd rather keep doing that, fair.
But I do the same thing. It's like I'd rather just watch something I've seen a million times than put something on I don't want to.
Yeah, I love.
Well, Nathan, did you want to hit to the chat to see if they give any questions to David? If the chat has a lot of questions, hopefully you can see if they want to do some too.
Well, you just did it. Like I don't have to do it because you just did it.
Hey, chat! If you guys have any questions for David,
why did he ask me to do it?
I don't know.
He's trying to get everybody else to do his job tonight.
Yeah, I know I'm lazy, but I don't have the laptop by me, so I'm not seeing the chat. I don't know what's going on.
We spared David you going through and listing off everyone in the chat room that was here.
Hello to everybody that's there. There. See? I remembered you. Nathan said he didn't give a shit, but I remembered all you guys. So, yeah, if you have questions, pop them to David. Nathan's going to have to read them, though. Go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead, David.
I'll read them.
While you're digging up some questions, Nathan, I've seen a few of your guys' episodes, but I forget, like, who your favorite He-Man, like, who are your top, like, 2 or 3 He-Man characters? And so I want to ask you guys that. So, Rebecca, you first.
Whew, that's really hard to pick like certain characters, but off the top of my head, I can say I specifically love Merman, Teela, He-Man, of course, She-Ra, of course, Sarad, Blade.
Oh yes, I always think of like Sarad like as like I always think of like some of the movie characters like not like He-Man and Jason, but not quite in He-Man because they were in the car. I mean, like Sarad wasn't in the show, but I love that toy I ran the shit out of that sparkly thing in his mouth, like all the time. I love that one. He's a cool one. I think that should have been like.
Oh god, I love Sarad and Blade. They're my 2 favorite characters to come out of the movie.
How hard would it be to be able to? Is there any poll that you could have to make statues? Well, you already said you don't want to do movie accurate stuff, so that would probably.
So if that would be an exception, I would just me personally, I wouldn't be able to art direct it because I don't have like it's such a different like creative mindset to be able to like create something from scratch versus like make that look like that. It's like a different eye. Like I feel like to do it, I have to really switch gears. So I'd rather. If we did do movie stuff, I'd find probably like an art director that could really handle that stuff. I give him more feedback on pose.
But if you took Sarad and you did it like your own version of it, like how you did Traptron stuff, that would be pretty cool.
I would love that. Yeah, I would love that. Taking him doing that would be great. I would love that. But yeah, Joe, what about you? Who are your tops?
Oh God,
Stratos.
We'd have to have like
Stratos number 1.
No, I forgot to mention Stratos. I do love Stratos. He's awesome.
For fuck's sake, he'd be boring to make too. He'd look like shit. But anyways, we got.
I think we can make it cool. That'd be the fun challenge: is how to make Stratos for me cool. You know, like
that would be a hell of a challenge. No, he's not. No. So anyways, Ninja. Shut up, Rebecca. I'm gonna choke.
That's gonna be our next cosplay.
So Ninja. Clamp Champ, Scareglow, Mantenna, Modulok. I mean, Glurtus and Triclops. They would all be so fucking badass. They'd be so badass because I know how you are with, especially the evil and the creatures and stuff. How wicked you could make them. See, I was even gonna say, it's like, do you tend to enjoy working on the evil warriors or evil characters more than heroic ones, or do you see like it more of a challenge to try to make somebody that's a good guy that might not have as much aesthetically going to look badass to try to make him look badass? Is that a challenge or?
Yeah, that's where actually. So we have Man-at-Arms on the list eventually, obviously, because he's like one of the main core. To me, one of the main core He-Man characters. Is kind of like want to get. I just had to get through like all the evil warriors. I want to get to first. Like that moved a lot of things out.
Yeah.
But Man-Arms, you know, a lot of like what I learned from like Trapjaw, I would do the opposite with like Man-Arms, where it's like really clean, but still like have these shapes that aren't like what you've seen before, but taking like his armor aesthetic, especially I would start from the classics and then just like curve things out a little bit more. So when you look
I
at
could picture that. I actually could picture like, you know, when you were talking about the Heroic Warriors, I could almost see like with Man-Arms, because I know how you are with metals and the armor and probably making them, you know, looking intense. But I guess that would be a challenge. As much as I talk about Stratos, how I really don't like him, and he kind of looks bland. Do you have a vision of what you think you could do to make Stratos maybe look a little more intense for like somebody like me that just I don't really vibe with him?
I think so. It would definitely be I mean, when you have a flying character, you have to kind of make him in a flying pose too, you know? So it's like, if you make him flying and we did the wings and the jetpack, like how would you make that all come together and make sense? To me would be the biggest thing. Because I want to not just look like he has fake wings on his arms. It's like, to me, I didn't really tell you guys this yet, but I'm working like my own story for like what Legends would be. Kind of like how all this would come together. Because, you know, you have the original mini comic story, you have the Filmation story, you have the movie story, you know, 2000X and the, you know, the new 3D show, and you have all these versions. I'm like, dude, our thing should have their own story. So I'm like, one thing with Stratos, and this helps me kind of like get fueled that way to making him like amped up to make him look cool, is I always go back to like the original mini comic where the first time you ever see Stratos, he's like an evil warrior climbing trying to sneak into Castle Grayskull with like was it Merman and Beastman? I forgot who it was, but it was like, oh, all the evil warriors are like the creatures. I love that. So like in the story I'm working on, Stratos would start out as like an evil warrior, you know, and then he would, by the end of movie 1, he'd obviously be a heroic warrior. Like in my story, Triclops starts as a heroic warrior and transitions to the evil warrior. So it's like, oh, the humans are the good guys and the monsters are the bad guys. Then you realize like, oh, anyone can really be a monster on the inside. So it's kind of like playing on themes like that. So I think approaching Stratos like an evil warrior is how I would start it. And then the face is key. You know, like how do you make the face? And again, like going back to what I was giving Tyler a little bit of shit about with Buzz Off is like the original toy, he has these like weird lips and this mouth thing. I'm like, how do you make Stratos have these like cool goggles, cool face, like without making him like a bird beak, but he's got to like look like a thing from the sky, you know? So it's like bringing all those elements together. I think we could cook something up that like looks really cool and has like this cool pose. And, you know, like maybe his race didn't need technology, you know, like maybe the avions and I forgot what the Buzz Off's Andrenids. Yeah, Andrenids. Like maybe they're the two main races of the sky, and then over time, like the avions like devolved and had to rely on more in technology to keep them in the sky versus the Andrenids like naturally.
So if you gave him a weapon, what would be the weapon? If you gave him a weapon, what would it be?
I don't know what I would do. I haven't thought that far, but that's a good question. So I'd have to think on that one a little bit, because maybe some characters don't need. I mean, like they would have to have weapons. I think like, you know, with I always think of like Buzz Off having the axe. I love what they did in like 2000X with making it more of like a halberd, like a long. Because to me, as a flying character, it makes sense unless you're like throwing it. Like having a long weapon would be cool. So maybe something to complement that or something. Maybe it is more. Again, like would I go more like how I would approach him as an old school character before technology, or now relying on technology? Would his weapon, in contrast, Buzz Off, be more mechanical in nature versus like an actual wielding weapon? So that's kind of like how I would begin to think about approaching him. And I would definitely do a swap out portrait where you have more of a classic one, but I would definitely want to like push the portrait like we did with Trapjaw and Trapjaw mainly. So yeah.
All right.
I love challenges. Yeah, I agree. And I think like, you know, when me and my friends talk about like IPs that are out there, I think one thing that a lot of IPs suffer from is they're missing cool looking good guys. Like Luke Skywalker works only because of the context of the movie. If like someone that has no idea what Star Wars is sees a Luke Skywalker toy on a shelf, they're like, dude, a white dude in a robe, like what? You know, it's gonna be like without that context, it just doesn't look cool. Darth Vader looks cool, Darth Maul looks cool, like evil warriors look cool. If you like, you know what I mean? It's just like Mechanic is like, how do you make Mechanic cooler? You know, like he's kind of cool.
There we go.
Sorry, Tyler. You know, but it's like, how do you? I think Manny Faces has a lot. I think Manny Faces is awesome. Snout Spout's awesome. He's got an elephant.
Yeah, there you go.
head.
Hey, there you go. You guys earning
That's
some
good to
points
hear.
with Tyler here. Now,
That's good to hear.
let's go ahead and completely take this out of the way. David, your opinions on the 87 live-action Master Universe movie.
It's a soft spot in my heart that I love to death. It's just like an unfortunate missed opportunity of like, why is it so much on Earth? You know, you just can't help but think of like the honest trailer for that movie where you're like, yeah, as a kid, when I saw it, I like loved it because I was a kid. I wasn't like thinking as objectively about those things. I was kind of confused about stuff.
As if you were like special, you know, or something like that.
But it has its issues. It has a soft spot in my heart, and I love it more. I love it more than I don't like it. If that makes sense. So and a lot of it's nostalgic, you know. And watching it now, you go into it knowing full well what you're getting into, and hoping that we get what we want in the next live action iteration. So yeah, you know,
I'm gonna put Tyler front and center. We got it.
Tyler.
Everyone sees it. He has this movie in his own special, like it has its own wing in his movie hall of
by
fame.
itself.
By itself.
That's
Nothing
cool, though.
can touch
I would,
I'm with Tyler 100%. It's a brilliant movie.
and I love that Tyler loves it. I'm never gonna be like, dude, why do you like this movie? It's like, you know, or I don't do that with anyone. Even if someone came up to me like, dude, I love the Halle Berry Catwoman movie. I'm like, good for you. You know,
I
that's
love
awesome.
Steel, man. Steel's
I mean, come
my
on,
top
man. You
5.
gotta have some limitations. Like, I'm not gonna tell someone you fucking like that movie, dude. Like, I like to be polite with some people about certain things, but in the live action movie, when people have come up to me and say, "Oh, the movie sucked," I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm not gonna be the kind nerd about this shit here. Like, we're going out back. And, you know, I'm gonna rip you a new ass over that one.
When you think about like 80s movie and like all the problems that movie had production, like all the stories you hear about production issues and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that visual He-Man and that visual Skeletor is like amazing. Like that we got those is like it's amazing. Frank Langella's Skeletor is like yeah, it's like so good. And how many like those iconic lines he like just came up on the spot. Like he created that skeleton, like so much of that. And it's like the fact that we got that at one point is like magical to me. Sure, we got a bunch of weird random characters, like we got Gwildor instead of Orko, and I like
what's wrong with Gwildor? What's wrong with Gwildor?
Everything is wrong with Gwildor.
You know, I was this close to like if I drank, I'd buy you a drink right now. But when you come through like that and shit all over Orko, like you took a nice soft serve Dairy Queen shit all over the character. Right
what else you like about Gwildor? Go ahead, we got to hear this.
How can you not like Silly Barty?
I just look at Gwildor and his face like hurts me. He's like just like his like face hurts me. And
you're hurting my face right now. I want you to know
like why do they and his hair? I'm like, I think mainly it's just like, why not Orca? Why not a robed faceless character that's like the wise one? Why do they have to go with this?
I feel like I'm talking to John right now. This is what we talk about every time I watch the movie. This is why I don't watch the movie with him.
Yeah, it's just like Rebecca, are you on my side or are you more on Tyler's
Tyler? I'm with Tyler.
Oh man,
I love the movie and I love Gwildor. John does not like the movie and he does.
I'm not on either side. I just love this shit. I love hearing it. Just go ahead. Tell me more about how he hurts your face.
You shut the fuck up.
That's great. I love it. More,
some people
please.
love Jar Jar Binks, and that's fine. Some people love Jar Jar Binks. They're like, dude, Jar Jar Binks is a great actor.
And that doesn't make it okay. I don't care how old they were when they saw.
Hey, but hey, you know, we're talking Jar Jar Binks. Tyler saw episode 1 14 times in theaters.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Joe, you were here for that, wasn't it?
Big moment for Star Wars. It was, you know, forever since anything Star Wars came out. So it's like, that's it. And Tyler, how old are you?
Hoping that it would be good.
Yeah. And I was
every time we went back, maybe it'll be good this time. Maybe it'll be good.
Yeah. I was like, okay, well, you know what? That's not very good, but I like the Darth Maul fight. Oh, yeah, Darth Maul's really good in it.
Darth Maul's amazing. The Duel of Fates sound like is my favorite Star Wars.
But that lightsaber fight does not hold up anymore because it's so overly choreographed. It's not like an emotional battle like an Empire and Jedi. You know, it's just it lacks any kind of texture to the fight. Like, yeah, it's pretty to look at, but that's it. Watching Luke get pissed off at Vader in the Death Star, and you have that choir like music playing over John Williams like. Score like and just oh my! I used to get so pumped watching it. I still do as an adult, like just him wailing on Vader, like that's fucking awesome, man.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yep.
David, you were asking. You said you were born in '83, right?
Yeah.
Tyler and I were
40 next month. Next month is big 4-0. Yeah.
Well, Tyler and I aren't far behind you. We were both born in '84.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. So you guys were. Yeah. That's really close.
Yeah. 84 was a magical year. We got Clawful. We got. I'm gonna argue that because Predator and the live-action He-Man movie and RoboCop and Superman 4 all came out in the summer of '87. So
let's ask David his thoughts on Superman 4.
Never seen it.
What? Well, now you got to come back. We got to do and now it's something different. We got to do a live commentary of Superman 4. We got to make it happen.
I don't think I've ever seen.
Joe, you can go, dig a ditch.
Don't ever watch it. Don't watch it, David. Do not watch Superman 4, please.
If he said through Catwoman, dude, this is a walk in the park.
Oh, that's true. If he sat through Catwoman,
yeah.
I don't know.
It's a massive.
I might need to duck out after this, but I haven't seen any of the Christopher Reeve Superman movie. Like I saw parts of the first one, but it missed my radar.
But you saw Man of Steel and you like it?
Oh, love Man of Steel, love it.
God, people.
Yeah. Yeah, so I never saw. I don't think.
How do you have a job?
So when I was at Sideshow, when we had to work on a Christopher Reeve Superman, I was talking with the Christopher Reeve fan. I'm like, dude, all right, you're the guy who's gonna help shape this. I don't have an opinion, I can't have an opinion. I don't want to art direct a Christopher Reeve Superman, so. Sometimes there's only so much time in the day. I mean, you guys haven't seen Catwoman or Steel, so whatever,
I can sleep at night because of that.
But David, how much more time do we have with you? I mean, do you have time for some questions from the?
Oh, totally. Yeah, I assumed it was gonna be about 2 hours. So yeah, I'm not in a rush.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we had.
Joe, stop trying to rush people.
No, I thought he said he had to go. That's what.
I thought, yeah, with Joe, I thought you said I got to bounce after this.
That's what I thought. Yeah, that's
30
what
minutes.
I thought.
That was an hour ago. Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. So we have this for Masters of Mini Comics. Hey, all, how's it going? It's really amazing. You have such cool guests. Is there footage of you making these statues? They're not toys. Come on now. And also, how are prices determined?
So I don't think we have video. Actually, when I was at Sideshow, they did really cool. Hey, here's the painter painting this thing. Here's this. But Tweeterhead hasn't actually done that. We've shown some behind the scenes, hey, here's a picture of someone with a working on this thing, but it's just an image, not really video or anything like that. We do some behind the scenes stuff. But I've been thinking about maybe in the future, maybe doing a one video chat with someone or a panel or something where I kind of walk through a bit more of the process and evolution of working on stuff. I did a little bit of that at PowerCon. I showed early concept art for, I forget if it was Merman. I think Trap Jaw was one I did. And we showed kind of how we came up with Trap Jaw. Not very thoroughly, but more hitting kind of milestones. So we haven't actually done video of that. But and then prices are always determined based on we always kind of know roughly how much it costs us to make a prototype, and they vary. Some projects take longer and they have to go through multiple sculpt iterations, so it costs a bit more. Some projects we just knock out pretty quick, which is rare. But usually it comes down to a factory cost. So when we work with a factory, we show them the project, get it height, swap outs, all the parts comes with the size, not the height, just the overall size. And they usually quote us. We have to negotiate with them in multiple factories, try and get the best price. And then from that, we always do the same markup. Can't share everything, but we have to do a certain amount so we can cover a certain margin, so we can pay ourselves, pay production, pay marketing, pay all this stuff. Have some extra because you get returns. You have to always work in that, pay the licensors. You have a endless list of things you have to save money for, and so it always comes down to what the factory says. And a lot of times they have us in a corner because sometimes certain factories just we're just this is all we can make it for, and we're well, we'll take our project over here. Yeah. Can't find anything over there, and we come back oh, okay, I guess we have to do that with you. And they're usually really good about working with us because their costs usually come from obviously labor, the amount of materials. Paint apps are always a big thing. They look at something with breakage issues because they know they're responsible to a point on return. So if we do Merman has a bunch of spindly stuff, they're going to quote that a little bit higher because they're dude, no matter how we make that, you're going to probably have a little thing broken here or there. So we have to work in what's called a scrap rate. So it always varies, but how big the box is going to be always determines it. Like a lot of people think weight is kind of part of it, but mainly they just like how many boxes can we fit on a container. You know, it's like computers don't care how much something weighs. We're not filling it with lead. So it's kind of like how many things, and that's just getting it from the factory to the States. Once it goes in the States, we're shipping an individual box, weight comes in, but when it's coming from the factory, it's box size. Like if you make this tiny character with all these spindly things, the box has to be huge to accommodate that. And so if they're like, well, we could fit 200 of those on a container, like here's what that's going to cost. And it's like, well, it's what in the box, the polyfoam, you know, so sorry, it's
I'm
a lot
glad
of...
you explained.
No,
I'm glad you explained all that because there's so many people that don't understand what goes into the pricing, the factors, and a lot of that, like you said, the box size, the shipping, everything. Just some people just think things should be at a certain price regardless, and they don't understand.
Like Joe.
But you're also. There's probably a lot more things that you have to take into consideration over like a Hasbro.
You're gonna wash your mouth out with soap.
Wash my mouth out with soap. Or any of the companies that are making 6-inch figures. You have way more to think about.
And that's a totally different business model too, because a lot of people like in certain cases we have to do plastics for something because it's so thin and long. It's like if you do that in resin, it's gonna break no matter what. If you breathe on it wrong, it breaks. So we have to tool that, make it in plastic. In some projects, like when I was at Sideshow, we had to make whole projects, like a good chunk of them in plastic. A lot of people are like, cheap plastic. It's like, technically, plastic costs a lot more to produce than resin. Like, a lot of people just don't.
And way more durable. Oh my God, resin is so brittle sometimes.
Yeah, so like, it's like there's give or take. Like, you can you can have this thing and you'll never get one whole. You just won't. You can get one broken and accept it and glue it yourself, and that's fine. You know, or you deal with plastics, and plastics you have to deal with steel tooling. And so that's like when you have a company like Hasbro, I don't know their numbers, and if I did, wouldn't share it, obviously, but like steel tooling a figure is a completely different. Order minimums from a factory with that are completely different. Paint apps are completely different. Packaging's like everything's, people compare them a lot, like statues and toys or high-end like articulated figures and statues, and like they're totally different. It's kind of like, it's just, I don't even know what to compare it to. It's kind of like, like cheaper airplanes and high-end cars. It's like, oh, this airplane costs this much. This car, it's like, dude, that's two totally different like machines. It's like two totally different things. It's
but at the same time, there's people that don't understand that. They just expect, it's a statue, but come on, man, like Diamond Select's over here making this other one. And it's like a little smaller, but it's only $50. And I'm like, what? Dude, it's two completely different things.
There's one company that made a 6-scale statue for only like $250 recently, and everyone's like points to that as like, see, why is Tweeterhead so expensive? Like, dude, we have no idea how they made that. Like, either it was the first statue and they just didn't care about their margins. Like, dude, screw it, we don't have to make any money. We're just gonna do this, just like put it out there, and just like some people can do that. Like, but if you're like one company, I don't want to name names, but like they have infinite money backing because of things, and they don't have to run it like a traditional business. Like Chad and I run Tweeterhead like an actual business. Like Chad started really small garage kits, got his first big licensing deal, was able to slowly expand, was able to bring me on, and we're able to make He-Man. Some people come in and they just have these deep pockets and just like throw it all on the table and just like get any license that they want because they can just like throw the money out there, and not any, but I mean that's throws.
Oh, we understand. Yeah,
they could just make stuff and doesn't sell. They keep making it, won't sell. It's like, how are they doing what they're doing? There's a term for it, but it's kind of like I used to run cross country in high school, and there's a term where cross country is long distance running, so you'd have to like pace yourself. It's not like a sprint, but some runners would sprint the first 100 yards just to psychologically mess with you, and they'd be like, I'm never gonna catch up to them, and you slow down. And companies do that too. They just like sprint, don't care if they're making any money, put it all out there, like grab onto a certain thing, and then it just sets expectations weird, everything weird. People like this one company has like over 100 projects in pre-order stage, and they're not shipping anything. Like they're 2-3 years behind on shipping stuff, and they look at us like,
I've heard of people who do that.
It's like, dude, we're making product and we're actually shipping product now. You can have
I think I've actually bought some shit from those people. I think.
I think we know who you're talking about.
Stupid.
So pricing is just like it's this thing. A lot of people just think like as soon as you raise a price, like, oh, you're money gouging. It's like, dude, we I could say
the price on everything goes up, and people don't understand that.
Yeah, or certain companies again, just like they might raise theirs more, and maybe some companies are like changing their margins. We've never changed our margins ever. It's like we actually lowered our margins to make Skeletor the current Skeletor price. He should have been more expensive. We just knew, and that's affecting how we can do things with certain other projects. Because we just want to make Skeletor more accessible. It's like we might not be able to do that for every project moving forward. It might be like, oh, maybe prices come down a little bit. We're not sure. We're always trying to like navigate, but it's like it's hard. People think, it's you spend sometimes 6 months to a year working on a prototype, getting up for sale, then you put it up there and people just like shit all over it because of the price and they just act like you're some evil like overlord rich guy. Like, dude, I drive a Hyundai Elantra. I'm not like driving a Ferrari. It's like shit, man. Like I'm renting a house. I'm not buying a house. It's like
you hear that, Joe? You're not getting anything for free. All right.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Worth a shot.
Here's a comment from Nick. I think you might know him from the sounds of it. No questions. I just want to say David is fun as hell to party with.
Dude, he's great. Yeah, Nick's awesome. He did a killer. I think I met him when he did that killer Roboto at PowerCon 2 years. I think it was Roboto 2 years ago. And that was the first time I met him. And then we exchanged info, stayed friends online. And then I teach ZBrush on weekends. He actually took my ZBrush class because he's an artist who does custom action figures and stuff. So he learned. He's a great guy. Yeah, super cool dude. So yeah. Love you, Nick, and your custom work is awesome. I almost got one of them.
His Roboto costume was awesome too.
His what?
His Roboto.
Dude, it was so good. It was It was shockingly good. I was like, damn.
Here's a comment from Mr. John McDonald from Simple Tricks and Nonsense. Tyler got a version of the movie from a parallel universe where the movie was actually good. Rebecca is she's gonna go out tomorrow.
Just go park on the couch.
File for divorce.
I was gonna say, Rebecca, you married a tree stump.
Jesus Christ!
And you just put glasses on them.
And here's an actual question from John. David, how likely is Mattel going to have Tweeterhead items in the gift shops of the Mattel theme park planning to open?
We haven't talk with them really about that. I think we were kind of talking about this a little bit before the show, but Mattel is very good at like making sure no one really encroaches on anyone's like territory essentially. So like we Tweeterhead work within a certain price range, and they're very good about like making sure we're the ones that like have that price range, because it's very rare you get a licensor that supports you with that kind of stuff. Usually they just want everyone to make everything so they can make as much money, but then you get things cannibalizing each other essentially. So I think to make something price point wise make sense in a theme park, we'd have to, I don't know if our high end, like, $400, $500 thing would make sense in a theme park, because the boxes are also, I'm doing this. Here it is. The boxes are huge too, so someone just carrying out
what about like mini busts, like how NECA used to do? Could you guys do mini busts or something like that possibly?
Well, that's again gets into like a price range thing. So even though our scale, we have 5th scale and 6th scale and 1-to-1 busts right now. But I think that's where like to do a bus, even though it's in the scale, the price point gets lower to that, which might conflict with other companies that have the license. So that's where we would just have to talk to Mattel, be like, hey, would this conflict with that, or would you view this as like a unique thing that could stand on its own that doesn't conflict with that? Because they're very good about making sure like partners aren't cannibalizing each other's sales. So
gotcha.
They're awesome about doing that. So
okay,
here's one from Oliver, which you have the life-size Skeletor already. I was wondering if there were plans for more of those, more heroic and evil warriors.
So we have the He-Man that we showed at PowerCon. We showed him 2 years ago, PowerCon. We showed early concept. We showed a refined concept art last PowerCon, a few months ago. And then we just on Tweeterhead Social on Friday and through their newsletter, we showed an update teaser of the actual sculpt, because we never actually showed any 3D stuff before. So we're still working on the sculpt. Yeah, that was what we showed the most recent PowerCon. So that shows like the main thing I think that changed on that was like his harness, like the center piece. In the original one, it was like closer to the Sideshow statue, where it was way less silver block behind the red cross. It was a lot more just like giant red cross and very little silver. And it felt weird to me as a life-size bust. So try to work back in the silver block. But when we were experimenting with it in 3D, having it be so like straight across, like the classic style, just like it didn't work big. So we were looking at like other versions of He-Man 2000X and I think it was is it Thunder Punch that has the different like is it Thunder
Battle
Punch
Armor? Battle Armor.
No, Battle Armor. It wasn't Battle Armor, but Thunder Punch or Hurricane. No, that's Hordak.
Flying Fists? I mean, which Flying Fists? I mean, which He-Man were you talking about?
Yeah, Flying Fist. Isn't he like a different chest logo center? Like where it's
well,
like
they all
shaped?
do.
They've got the HM kind of motif,
Yeah, but I meant more like the outside of the shield, kind of like so. The original, it's like
that would be Thunder Punch has more of a kind of. Well, fuck here. I don't know.
Yeah, Thunder Punch. That's what I'm thinking of. I think it's Thunder Punch. Yeah.
Yeah, like I mean.
Well, I got Joe. I got him right here.
Oh, yeah, let's have this one.
I was going hardcore.
Yeah. You know how they like change the shape of the shield, the exterior? So it's like we looked at like a bunch of versions of those and we're like, oh, cool. Like there is some room to flex with that a little bit, even though it is classic. But we went with kind of like what they did with 2000X, where it like became less straight, a little more angled. And I feel that shapes around the chest a bit better. So, so we teased a sculpt on Facebook. Like I don't know, Nathan, if you could snag that on Tweeterhead's Facebook, but there was like a teaser. It's like a side profile, mostly shadow. You see kind of like a shoulder pauldron, and you get a little tease of the power sword, which we changed the power sword quite a bit from that 2D to the new 3D, and a lot of that's because of what we did with the Skeletor Legends fit scale. So yeah, there you go. See a little bit of the handle back there, but yeah, it's shaping up pretty freaking. I'm really freaking happy. He's kind of a hard one because we want to get that right, and then if it succeeds there, we can take that, use it for like the full fit scale statue. But a fun design aspect recently that we worked on was the power sword for the Skeletor, the cat, like the full size one. The recent one you were showing that earlier, Nathan. But I was always trying to channel like what would I do like again like in this movie universe that we could create for this Legends line. How would we approach the power sword? Because obviously, like the toy, you had He-Man had one half, Skeletor had the other half, and then they clicked together to make like the weird gray purple sword or whatever. So in our version, it's like, yeah, I want to do two power swords. Like and it's not like evil and good powers. It's like to me, Castle Grayskull shouldn't be good or evil. It's just it is what it's like this thing, kind of like Mother Nature, right? It's like a hurricane is a hurricane. It just happens to do damage. Castle Grayskull could be the same thing where it's not like this thing just of good. It's like this thing that protects Eternia, like no matter what. Like you could be a good intention person and you could maybe not have your good intentions might not be the best for Eternia. So I want to approach the two power swords very much the same way, where it's not like a good one and a bad one, just two different ones. We pulled motifs from the door to Castle Grayskull. We have like that like the coat of arms like thing. So kind of hard to see there, but you can see on the power sword there's like a skull with a spiked helmet, and that's very much from the door of Castle Grayskull, where you have like the skull, the floating helmet above it, you have the wings, and then I think it's cross swords. So I pulled themes from that and split it into two, thinking like going back to like the comic or anything where they talk about the power swords the way into Castle Grayskull, but like in the mini comic it's literally inserted as a key. So I was trying to think of like, if that's the door and that's the way in, like maybe we pull like visual themes from that. So it's kind of fun to like, all right, Skeletor's power sword would have the skull. It might work better with him. And then He-Man's has a bit more of like, I don't know if it's a falcon or eagle, but like a little more of like the, bird motif, very much like sorceress. And like what's like, again, like the door frame has skull, helmet, wings, and I think swords or something like that. So
it does.
Yeah, so pull those two, and then if they combine, they wouldn't literally connect. It would be like in my mind, like a magical moment where it's like kind of like two really strong earth magnets, like and then when they pull together, like flashes, lightning, all that shit, and then there's just a sword that's there, and it's like the two combined. So it's like we've designed two power swords. I want to design like the merged one later as like a swap out thing. So yeah, that's how I want to approach it. I think it's cool. I think it's fun.
Going back to the theme park thing, Simple Tricks had followed up that Universal Studios actually has Sideshow and other high-end items on display in their stores. I think that's where the question.
Yeah, they do. From. And if Mattel wants to do that, that'd be very much like they usually approach us with stuff like that. Actually, approach them about something for the theme park. Like I thought it'd be cool to take our Skeletor maquette because it's digital and blow that up to be like a 18-foot thing that greets you when you walk in, and they're like,
that'd be cool.
They're just like, oh, we don't know how to make like they're just kind of like
we don't know how to do that.
Just make a life-size Skeletor and like He-Man.
Yeah, and I think like bigger than life size. I think like make them like 2-ups where they're like 12 feet or 18 feet or something.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, like I think that'd be like super cool, and like I kind of pitched them the idea, and like it might happen one day, but like right now it's like I don't know. I guess they're just like they have other plans, and that's fine. But I'm like, man, big giant Skeletor would be freaking awesome,
Yeah.
So,
has there been?
Iron Croc could be in there. I guess. Yeah.
Has there been anything? And if you can't discuss it, you don't have to. But has there been a scenario, anything specific that Mattel has told you? Absolutely outright, do not do this. This is something we don't want.
I think when we first were working on getting the license with them, we had like a Hordak done, or like the Hordak maquette was like 95% done already because it was underneath when we were doing it through Universal with Sideshow. But then when Mattel was getting it back, like Hordak's like She-Ra kind of, you know what I mean? It's like one of those weird things. So it was almost like Mattel wasn't sure how to like make that work licensing wise, but then eventually like the workaround for us was, he was a He-Man toy, so we're going to make him gray so he's not like blue. And then eventually we could do a blue Filmation inspired one as a follow-up. So Mattel's been super supportive of everything. They've been really, really, really shockingly cool. Even like Tila, I was a little worried. I've dealt with, Marvel, Disney, and other companies before too, where, as you guys know, I don't want to get too much into it, but like certain sensitivities towards sexuality. And I kept that in the back of my mind with Tila, but I wanted to be Tila. I didn't want to like make her bikini line become like hot shorts or something like that. It's like, she's got to have, a little something showing. And
exactly. I mean, it's a world of fantasy anyways of warriors. You look at He-Man, he's more naked than Tila. So it's like, if they want to go with,
I had certain discussions with certain licensors at one point in time about like, you're cool with this, but not this. And they're basically like,
the brain freezes. Like, wait a second, he's making a point, but I can't say shit.
I just don't, and I don't want like it's again like they have their reasons. Certain people I deal with, they're awesome, like on the licensing side, but then they have to answer to hire people that they just like. They're like, dude, I know, I can't, like we can't. And sorry, I can't. But it's just, it is what it is,
I like that face he made though. We need to save that as a response for something we don't like. Like,
yeah, can you do that again?
Yeah.
There we go. Right. Yeah, I'll screenshot that so we can use it for future shows.
Yeah.
Future episodes.
Is there what's on the wish list for you? What is something that
I was going to ask you that too?
That you before you're kind of, I guess, well, I don't want to say when you're done because like you can work there the next 30 years or whatever. But what is something that I definitely want to get the license to that, and this is what I want to make.
And I was going to ask you like 3 obscure 80s toy lines, like under the radar that are badass, but they are definitely nowhere near as celebrated.
So I'll answer both. I'll start with Nathan's first. Like character wise, and then He-Man, I want to do all the monsters. I just love again like Webstor, Whiplash, Clawful, Stinkor, anything that's like creaturey, like good or bad. Like I want to do a badass like Snout Spout and have a whole idea for him too.
I want to see what your Jitsu would look like.
So
because I have
a hard time. I was just thinking of Jitsu.
What? Man, just when you think you're making progress here, you just like
it feels like it's hard when it's like not to Joe, I love you, but Ninja is like I'll just shove a ninja into He-Man. I'm like,
shit. You guys, God, I'm telling you, man, this is like crimes against humanity here.
Well, we gotta backtrack on this. David he's definitely more like, as he said, monster focused. So when he looks at these other characters, he's like, it's a human. So
human's one thing,
but he's got monster feet. He's got monster hands. You tell me you could not make an amalgam here of a human, but.
Tyler, I think he'd be very happy. So in my story I'm working on for these things. Again, I try to find ways to make these like cool.
Oh, you're probably not going to make them happy with whatever story idea you have. I'm just going to go ahead and lay that out
like,
there.
End of movie 1, certain things happen. He-Man has the unified power sword, and then basically there's like a call to council of like, hey, there's this really powerful thing that exists now. Does it really belong to He-Man? And he has to kind of like defend that, like, this called on me and I have it. And like, he's the one that united the light hemisphere with the dark hemisphere in a way, because Stratos is part of the dark hemisphere. And technically I made He-Man part of the dark hemisphere too, being from like the mini comic. He's from that tribe. That's kind of how I want to approach him, not the Prince Adam transformation thing. I always thought that didn't work for me as much. So my He-Man is like,
I don't have a roof high enough to jump off of right now. I'm just
We gotta wrap this shit up now.
My God.
King Randor calls in like all the other kingdoms. So loving like the Filmation show, they have like other kings. It's not just King Randor. There's like all these other kingdoms. So it's like pull them all together and just representative. So I have like Fisto shows up, Jitsu shows up, Clamp Champ shows up. All these characters. Huh?
They're kings?
No. They're not kings. They're representative. The kings don't want to go because it's dangerous. So they're sending their like essentially their right hands, kind of like Man at Arms to King Randor would be like Jitsu to whoever. It would be like, so Jitsu starts out as like heroic warrior turns evil warrior. That's how I want to.
So you're just making all the humans good guys and then become bad guys, like Triclops and
but then
just...
Stratos becomes a good guy and Buzzoff becomes a good guy. So it's like, and now it's about like
I get it because of his soft spot for like the creatures, the creature aspect of it. It's like you know what? Fuck the humans. They are the bad guys. Yeah, I get it. Go ahead.
I feel like I'm talking to John because that's what John's like. He's like, he loves all the creatures and monsters and stuff. So
there's so much potential you're missing here.
But that's where it's like, it's fun. Like when you eventually get to that stuff, it's like, how do you make this make sense? Like, again, like it's not just gonna be like, hey, take if we did Jitsu, take classic Jitsu toy and blow it up. It's gonna be like what, I like 2000X. I have my 2000X little like a NECA
station. Yeah.
I have him down there. And he's like, to me, that's like an awesome evolution of Jitsu. And I just think like, how would I make that make sense? And, as a white dude, I want to be sensitive to certain cultural references. So if I worked in that, I'd probably talk to a couple of my friends that like know stuff about like different Asian cultures a lot better and help like make this feel like a cool amount, like make it its own, but a fun amalgam of everything. Kind of like what they did with Black Panther, like in the movies, like bring in some of that, but you still get a badass looking Black Panther. But there's like some layering to it that makes it like that much more meaningful to like everyone else as well. And that's what we do probably with Jitsu, something like that.
Question about your Jitsu: is it on the bottom shelf? Is he on the bottom shelf? Your Jitsu?
So he's like, so I have top shelf. Let me just let me do this real quick.
Right, yeah, I'm curious because I keep mine low in fear of if he fell, that ponytail break. How is your ponytail? Is it good?
Oh no, it broke. It came broken. How do I tell it? So top shelf is, sorry, I don't know how to aim this. Dinosaurs and dragons and stuff, with a couple of exceptions.
Yeah, the pizza monster.
Right. Yeah, and then down there is like random monsters. I got my Venom bust from the Shiflett Brothers. Got
I see a street shark on that shelf.
Yep. Yeah, I got
Blades.
It's a
couple.
Hey, could you make that big, Nathan? His collection.
Oh, yeah, I could do that, couldn't I?
Yeah.
See a couple of those Super 7 Gilmans there.
Yeah, sorry. I love Gilmans. I have like many versions of Gilmans.
How about that, Nathan?
Yeah, got him on my arm right here. That's
I have that.
I like him.
Eraser merman in the middle there, so he's actually like a pencil eraser. I got King Shark in the background because I love sharks, and I got the Four Horsemen, like a dude there. I forget his name, like the Quadron guy.
You got that sweet thing poster right there. That's cool.
Yeah, that was my girlfriend's. That's hers.
Look at this. All this evil stuff. I see the theme of all the evil and all the creatures, and I bet you any humans will be all the way at the bottom because that's where they belong. Probably. We'll see.
I don't have.
Let's see if I'm right.
Really have many humans in my collection. So sorry. I don't know how I'm steering this thing. So yeah, a bunch of. So that's all He-Man stuff, and this is like Ninja Turtles and other.
Triceraton and Slash, my two favorite villains.
There you go,
and
man.
You got Ground Chuck too.
And you know that Joe had a hand in that Skeletor turtle hybrid.
Oh, you did? Awesome. Turtleor? Yeah. No, I love that. I love
like inspired it because I made one and then inspired the creator of that. Yeah.
I love that I gotcha. So I have the Skeleton Warrior Ninja Turtle 2. I have I can't show you really. I mean, I can
Yeah.
grab it, but I have the Show you real quick. I have the My Pet Slash. Ninja Turtle.
yeah, that's cool.
That's pretty
Yeah,
neat.
yeah.
I just couldn't show you because he's against a bunch of my sensitive like Tweeterhead stuff. But yeah, so I got like Ninja Turtle stuff there, and I got like more Ninja Turtles. That's where Jitsu is with that. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Well, he would look better way up front. I just got.
So he's like
throw all the humans in the back.
He's the only human guy I have because I love that armor design, like that giant hand. I'm like, that's so
Yeah.
cool. Oh, and then if you guys want to ever talk about this later, or whatever, this is my own toy line I'm working on with some friends. So got my Sham Moo here, and he's a killer whale cow bull hybrid. Behind him, I have Sting
Can you
Cobra.
promote that? What you'll be doing, like at the end, like when I'm gonna pass it to you to promote all your work and pages. Is that something you can bring up and mention?
Yeah, I got. Yeah, that stuff's just like it's like I mean, I love my job, love what I'm doing, but like I love working my own stuff too. Like I look like this stuff started as a result of me looking at this other toy shelf of like what don't I have that I want? Like I have more Ninja Turtles and He-Man toys and random monster things behind, like I told you guys. So it's like, why don't I have like a Cobra? Like I have Scale Tail, he's Rab. I want like a
he's cool.
I had like my own ideas for what I want to do. So
I'm curious, are you a fan of Battle Beast?
Battle Beasts are rad. Yeah, I got a few. Yeah. They're actually not in here, but I got a few of those too. I love those. Those are very different, actually. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, going to what Tyler had asked you, what 3 like 80s underappreciated like toy lines, cartoons, things that, because we did a watch along with the first episode of Dino Riders.
Oh, dude, Dino Riders. So that's like, that's why they're not the Dino Riders, but like those newer Mattel, like the smaller ones are single color. Those were all on the top.
Yeah.
Up here, like
yeah.
So
yeah.
Got my like little.
Yeah,
T-Rex
I got some of those from my nephew. Yeah, he loved them.
So my big Christmas, my childhood Christmas, I remember like the one big one was I have a twin brother. We're fraternal. We don't look alike, but we came down. We each had one huge box. Dave and John. We opened them up. I got the T-Rex, and he got the I forget if it was the Brontosaurus or the Apatosaurus, like one of the like big long neck ones,
or Diplodocus, or
that one. I forget if it was that one or the other one, but he got one of those, and I got the T-Rex, and we like
oh my god,
our minds. Yeah. So
what was it like to own that? Well, just as a human being, what was it like to own the T-Rex in hand?
It wasn't quite like what is it, the G.I. Joe like ship or whatever that is.
The flag.
Yeah. It's not that, but dude. I wouldn't know what to do with that thing anyways. But I love having that. So Dino Riders would be huge. I actually really have a fun idea for Street Sharks, like movie toy, like kind of like what we did with Legends for He-Man.
Yeah,
I have a way to make them like. And it might be blasphemous to like super hardcore fans, but like not rollerblady and blue jeans, but like how would I make Street Sharks make sense in like the Legends aesthetic? And obviously, like I want to continue like Thundercats, which I wouldn't say is underappreciated. I would say those are appreciated, but underappreciated Dino Riders, I would say has its following, but isn't as broad appeal. Like it should be. Like I'm just like it's bonkers to me that they're not making a Dino Riders movie after all the big money success of like the Jurassic World, Jurassic Park, like, all that. Yeah. Dude, it's like if you take Fast and Furious almost and like Jurassic World and just combine them, that's like Dino Riders.
No. I don't want Vin Diesel riding a Triceratops.
Not Vin Diesel, like even I don't even know if that's the right comparison, but you know what? It's almost like it's like such a
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's like it takes that concept and just like cranks it up to 11 and because you think about it. If you were doing that in a live action space, a lot of people would look at that trailer and be like, "This is really ridiculous." But I get what you're.
I think there's a way to make it work again. Like,
it could so work.
Yeah, and I love
starring The Rock.
Fuck no.
I think like
he is joking completely. John does not like The Rock.
Oh yeah.
What about like a Bionic 6 or Brave Star or
Brave Star? Some cool stuff. I'm not as big of a fan of like a horse transforming to like I'd rather have like a horse dude, or it's a horse, not like I'm a horse. No, I'm like, I'm gonna, I don't know, just like
I can, I can, because 30-30 looks cooler when he's standing up on two legs. It's like humanoid. Yeah. I do like that form, so I can understand your argument for that.
I'd probably go that direction, make it like Han Solo and Chewbacca kind of an angle, where it's like, except cool. He's like an intergalactic space sheriff, and that's his like Chewbacca,
But it's weird to go from that to riding him.
Yeah, I don't want to write. I couldn't see myself riding around on Joe Amato, even though I've made jokes about that.
We've had artwork for it done.
Yeah, but it wouldn't look right. Then Joe gets up and starts talking to me while he's
Joe's not responding. He might have passed out.
Joe's frozen.
Oh, is he?
Oh, he is frozen.
Oh, yeah. I thought he was just sitting there.
Beating up on him. He's frozen. Yeah. He can't respond. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you were just making a joke, like Joe was, because Joe can just sit there quietly and not say anything for a while. But
I'll message him and see.
Oh, I bet I know what it is. I bet he had to.
Oh yeah, he didn't say anything. Yeah, maybe he had to go.
Yeah.
Usually like 10 o'clock. It's like
okay, guys, we got to wrap this thing up. Is what he said.
Yeah. Well, sorry I was dragging out so long, guys.
Oh no, absolutely not.
We always go past.
Yeah, especially when Joe leaves.
Then we have real fun. It's like after the anchor has been cut from the boat, we can just take off.
Excuse me.
I mean, at the same time too, I was looking around. Maybe Joe was making hand gestures, and I may have missed it.
Yeah, probably.
When I was off like Flex, she's like, "Guys, my house is on fire. I have to go now." Didn't know,
He's typing now.
Oh, okay.
Joe.
I don't like it. It's just, man, I think the 80s is like such a good, like late 70s, 80s, early 90s, such like a unique moment of time that like it just like some of that's captured a little bit now. Like there's bizarre, weird shit that they're letting adults make, but so much of that like bizarreness that happened at that time, I think was like a lot more like adult things, and like just like you hear like the outtakes of the Thundercats like script readings, if you guys heard those.
Those were one. I remember hearing those back in the early, like late 90s, like early days of the internet. That was just phenomenal.
They're so good, and you're just like, you try and watch some of those episodes, you're like, adults approve this? Like what drugs were they on or whatever? Like just like what were they doing? And I think it's just like that was a moment in time. I think it's like less now, and there's things I can appreciate that they're trying to push, like with like certain things, like certain diversity pushes. I think makes sense. Certain things feel like really forced and unnatural. I think there's like a good balance there to make things identifiable for like a lot of different kinds of people. And some things I'm like, that's how you chose to go about it. Not what I would have done, but I get why certain people do things, and I hope there's a little more of a reset into like kind of like just make the best choice. Don't like force something and shove it down people's throat because it's X, Y, or Z or whatever.
Exactly.
But I mean, going back to that, you think Ninja Turtles, Street Sharks, just that mentality, even though
Bucky O'Hare.
Yeah, just random things. I mean, granted, one could say, I guess, that Street Sharks was kind of a rip-off of Turtles, or no, maybe not a rip-off. It was still a cool concept.
I would call it a rip-off, but damn it, it was a cool rip-off.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say it was a rip-off. I would say it was a response to the success of Ninja Turtles, and like just like Battletoads.
But Battletoads was awesome. Like I was like, there's room for more. Like I'll take it all.
Our favorite thing, He-Man, is a response to Star Wars. We all know that. We have to say it out loud. It's like it is what it is, and like it's great. Like I love that we got some of the best things as a result of, oh, that's a thing. Now we gotta do our thing. But I think that's one thing that made He-Man so successful is they didn't just try to make an alternate version of Star Wars. They took like loose elements of that and then other elements and just like mixed it all together. And He-Man is my Motu is my Star Wars.
I guess it's a good thing Joe isn't here, because anytime someone says Motu, he's like, I hate when they do that.
Yeah, he's the only one of us that really drives him crazy.
But it's easier to say.
I say it to piss him off though.
Yeah, that's true.
I can understand it because I hate it when people say SNES instead of SNES
and NES. Yeah.
Oh, I hate.
Are you too good to say Super Nintendo? Just fucking say it.
I mean, I get I just say SNES. I don't know why, just because it was always the letters.
That's how I was as a kid.
Yeah, but Super Nintendo just as easy. But whenever someone says SNES, I'm like,
that's lame.
Yeah.
Hate it.
You're a dork.
I can understand Joe hating Motu. It's like, oh, that's like his snazzer.
Speaking
Hating when
of,
people like talk about Twitter and like he tweeted at me. I'm like, oh, it's like the worst like tweet. It's like, oh,
yeah.
the
Well, I
worst.
mean, Twitter's kind of garbage anyway.
I'm just saying the word like tweeting or quit or whatever.
It's kind of wimpy. Like we said, I tweeted at you. You know, like it sounds kind of like
like I farted at you. Like I
yeah. It almost sounds like one of those kind of farts. You know, those that are very light and airy.
It didn't sound like this one.
Yep.
No, those are impactful. A tweet is like a.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah.
Like one of those early morning farts. You just, it's like your asshole spits. You know?
You might need to look at what you're putting in your body before you go to bed, Tyler, if you're asking.
I mean,
I've made that mistake before, live on a podcast before. So, it's but it just depends on how you land. If you land at a certain angle, you're going to shart all over the place. That's why it's important. You got to be sitting down on the toilet if you feel like you're having trouble passing that gas.
You know what?
Whole nother discussion we could have sometime because there's stories for sure.
Well, that's
I'm not shy about it. There's stories. I just don't want to be like Dave Igo from Tweeterhead while we're talking about. I'll be like Dave Igo, toy collector, friend. Like, oh yeah, that one time
I shit my pants one time. It was awesome.
Yeah, a couple times. What?
Who's counting?
Last week. Yeah. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah, just wait till we're all like hanging out after PowerCon and just like.
Yeah, that's
when all the good stories come out.
It's gonna get real though. If Rebecca's like, oh man, I shit my pants one time too. And like, you shit your pants? Girls shit their pants? Girls don't.
She's
do
like,
that.
I laughed so hard, then I sneezed, and it just happened. It's like.
And John had to change me.
Oh jeez. Oh, that's funny.
That's one thing I love about this PowerCon though. Like, I mean, I'm used to like the convention I do every year. That's I've done every year since like college was San Diego Comic-Con. It's like so big, so bonkers. Then like your hotels are like way far away, and like PowerCon, it's like it's connected by like a tunnel, which is great.
Exactly, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's like, dude, when I was at the booth at Tweeterhead, I'm like, I gotta go to the bathroom. I'm like, it was like a 10-minute like. I was like, I loved it. I could go back to my hotel room. It was like right there. I'm like, yes. Like,
imagine walking around in costume, like just from.
And you got to take a big old nasty shit.
Yeah, otherwise you're shitting your
Rebecca,
pants.
I think our room really close to each other because I remember seeing you and John walking out. It was not Tila Merman. It was whatever. Where were you guys day one there?
Dora and Warduke.
Yeah. That's what it was. Because I was like, oh, that's cool. 2 cosplayers. Like, I think you're like literally like a few doors down from us. I came out, I was walking, and you guys came out. We got in the elevator together, and I was like beelining to go set up the booth. I'm kind of like hardcore about like getting there. Like, I want to be the first person when the doors open and set up. And so when exhibitors or anyone are coming by, I want to make sure we're already like good to go. But yeah, PowerCon's great for that reason, man. Especially like when it was raining. You didn't have to leave the building ever. You just go to your hotel. If your hotel was
because it was raining that one morning. No, that was great.
Yeah.
I wish it's the best con I've ever been to. Do you attend a lot of other cons?
So I do like Monsterpalooza. We did it last year. Tweeterhead. I've done it before on my own. Like I'll showcase my own artwork. So I love Monsterpalooza.
I wanted to go to that forever.
You guys should just go and enjoy. Like it's especially the big one in Pasadena. It's like so fun. It's so like plus like for me, I have an extra attachment to it because I have a lot of friends like in the like effects industry. So I get like it's like everyone's under one roof finally because everyone's so busy. So I get to see like a bunch of like friends that are always too busy working on movies and shit. I get to see them finally. And I love again monsters. So that's a great one. Tweethead. We do Comic-Con. We don't do LA Comic-Con or any of the other ones. I want to go to them and see what they're like because they are like way more local. I just haven't done them. I really want to go check out 5 Point Fest, which is like 5 Point articulated figures. I think that's in Jersey or something. Do you guys know about that one?
I've never heard of that one.
But
surprisingly, I usually know all the cons.
Apparently that one's supposed to be pretty cool. Like, so I want to go maybe check out that one eventually because, like, again, like my Shamumu I'm working on is very much like in that world aspect of like Ninja Turtles meets He-Man meets all those things are like 5 Point. And some of them are, because it's head, waist, arm, I don't know how they come up with 5 point because mine is 4. It's waist, arms, head. I don't know what 5 is. I guess legs with no waist maybe is what it is. I don't know. Yeah, 2 legs, 2 arms, head is 5 point. I don't know, but that one's just pretty cool. And then there's other conventions in LA. Again, really spoiled being here, but there's like Designer Con, which is in Anaheim, but it's all like designer vinyl stuff. So like not Funko, but like better versions of that. Like in a lot of bootleggy custom toys are there, which I love. Then you have Lightbox Expo, which is all animation focused. So like it's like when you go to Artist Alley at Comic-Con, you see all these amazing artists that work on comic books. It's like that, but for animation. So you see like all these like character designers, layout artists. They're doing their own artwork, selling prints, sketchbooks, pins, stickers. Lightbox is awesome. That's super cool. You get to see like Chris Sanders, who directed like Lilo and Stitch and designed Stitch and co-directed How to Train Your Dragon and designed Toothless. Like he has a booth there, and they'll like have original art and stickers and stuff there. So it's a lot of guys like that doing stuff. So it's cool. But yeah, I feel like there's like so many like if you wanted to, you could like literally go to a convention every week.
Yeah.
It used to not be that way before. It seemed very few and far between. But since the whole dynamic of all of this as pop culture has exploded in probably the last 10, 15 years, it's like you said, there's a convention every week. It feels like.
Yeah. And there's more I'm learning about all the time. Like, I have these 2 of these guys back here I'm working on, are like little mini like kaiju dudes I'm working on with a buddy. And it's like it's this thing we're working on called Kaiju Doom, and it's kind of like, you take classic looking kaiju monsters, hybrid. I have another one here too. This guy, he's like a Cyclops turtle demon, and his spike shell is
awesome.
Very cool.
Like, yeah, so it's like so when you look at it, it's like, oh, it's a spiked turtle shell, and you look at it's like demon heads and tusks and horns and stuff like that. So they're very much like like Devilman meets Godzilla kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I didn't know there was like this big convention in Chicago. I mean, it's not big. Like I say that, I don't want to say it that way, but maybe like PowerCon size, but it's like Godzilla kaiju focus. I'm like, oh, that'd be a cool one to maybe go set up at and check out. But I think it's called G Fest. I think that one's in June and that one's in Chicago. But you hear about cities are blowing up now. Like Denver apparently has a really good Comic-Con, and Salt Lake Comic-Con is supposed to be pretty good. Texas has a bunch of different stuff. I've never been to Emerald City Comic-Con. So there's like Comic-Cons itself is like a long list, and you get like all these like Designer Con specifically towards like vinyl toys, PowerCon specifically for this, and it's like a ton of stuff. Too much cool.
I feel like I'd gravitate more now towards the ones that are focused on toys and instead of celebrity guests, because the prices the prices on those have gone through the roof.
I could not care less about seeing a like I'm sure there's like a guy I'd be like, oh my god, that's that one dude. Like, like I'm sure like a Peter Weller to me would be like huge, but it's like,
hell yeah.
I'm not going to a con to seek out like standing in line all day to get like X amount of signatures, but like that's what funds a lot of them though. Like Monsterpalooza, hugely funded by people that show up. That Peter Weller was actually at this last Son of show, and a lot of people were there to get like all the RoboCop stuff signed by him, because he's directed a bunch of stuff too, which is bonkers. But yeah,
I love Peter Weller. I see John's bringing up Toylanta. That's going to be our next one, is Toylanta, which is a pretty new one.
I got someone from PowerCon sent me that, like, oh, are you going to Toylanta? And I'm like, maybe I'll just go. Like, at Tweeterhead's not going, but maybe a fun one, just like get a flight. Like, see, I don't know. Like, it's always hard. Like when I've been very spoiled, where it's like, like having PowerCon host you, and
I know I'm so spoiled by PowerCon.
Yeah. So it's like kind of hard when it's like, I have to get my flight ticket and a hotel and
you guys
they don't feed you.
You're too used to the Joe Amato treatment, getting everything for free. Then it's like, wait, I gotta pay.
I remember talking to Johnny Bilson. Do you know Johnny Bilson? He was
I might have met him. Oh, cool.
He was the other cosplayer behind us.
Oh, awesome, cool.
He's not been to any other con besides PowerCon, and he's like, we're eating lunch, and he's like, I love con food, and I'm like, Johnny, dude, no other con feeds you like this.
Val is
I'm like, this is not con food. This is PowerCon.
PowerCon
he's
is
like,
very...
really? He's shocked. I'm like, You don't need to go to any other con if you're going to be spoiled completely by PowerCon.
Dude, yeah, Val is very awesome about how he takes care of his people there for sure. It's like kind of like I was kind of shocked at how
well taken care of. Yeah,
I was kind of shocked. He's great. That's why like I always and I also have like a huge soft spot in my heart for Val, anyways, because he helped keep Mo2 alive because of the He-Man forums for like so freaking long, and like everyone was like, oh, it's dead. This is like he was one of the guys that's like, no, this is cool. Like making a place people can come to. Huge reason why we had the 2000X comic books was because of him and everything. It's like, and for him to do that with that convention for so long, and now kind of like, and I get like why he evolved it to more than just He-Man, but I think everyone still thinks of it as like a He-Man show, but yeah,
it's always going to have a place there. I mean, if it's a toy show, He-Man is such a huge part of toy culture that it's going to be a part there anyway, but a lot of the same people who are such He-Man fans are still going, so it's only attracting a new crowd, but the old crowd's still there too. So
hey, before I have to get going here pretty quick, but I never asked Tyler and Nathan what your 2-3 top He-Man characters are. I asked Rebecca and Joe, and then we got distracted as we do.
Well, so that's what we do on this show. We get sidetracked and sidebar when we go off on different stuff. Clamp Champ would be up there for me. I got way more appreciation for that character now since I've joined the show. When Rebecca wasn't here, it was just Tyler and Joe, and I was just producing it for him. Once I started getting more into it, really great appreciation for Clamp Champ. Triclops is awesome, and then I'd have to throw Trapjaw in there. Trapjaw is probably number one for me. I think I've said that plenty of times. Granomir. I mean, that's more Filmation based, but Granomir is really
I would love with like the He-Man statue line, which I'm pointing at, which isn't even here. It doesn't exist. But
you want to do a Granomir, huh?
Like I'd love to do the bigger characters as like bust too, like Granomir, or like Titus, or Megator. Like have just like do them in fist scale, so their heads would be like this big, so you could have them behind your statues. Maybe give them like one arm each or something like that. And have
that'd be fucking cool, dude. Oh my god.
I have an idea for Granomir because I love Granomir, and I think he works for the cartoon shows like a drag, which is a helmet on. But I think you got to incorporate that more, like a little bit of armor, how the helmet like forms the head, and like pulling a little bit of that.
I would love to see what you do with that.
Yeah, that'd be a fun. I've when you mentioned Granomir, I'm like, oh, that's one of my. If I had to put like a list of obscure characters.
What about Dilobug?
Dilobug would be good.
Oh,
he's first here.
The big face guy, right?
Yeah,
the robot. He's a robot, right? Horde?
Yeah, he's a robot. Horde robot, yeah.
He'd be a hard one to get right. He's kind of like...
he's more robotic than creature, but...
Yeah, who's that Marvel character that's also like the giant face? Like MODOK, right?
Well, MODOK, and then you got Arnim Zola, which is like a rope, like his face is in the...
That's what I was thinking too. Yeah, so that'd be a hard one to get right. Like robots are not where my mind goes immediately, but I have robot guys though, so definitely like when it comes to like working on Manny faces would be that's like the after Man-at-Arms, that'd be like the next good guy I'd want to do if it's not Buzz Off or Stratos. But Manny faces, I think it'd be fun to like make the robotic stuff work, on a good guy sense versus like Trapjaw where we did like all this cool evil hammered metal stuff. But yeah. All right, Tyler, what about you? Who are your tops, man?
It's for Heroic Warriors, it'd be Cyclone, Clamp Champ, Moss Man, Lizard Man. Evil Warriors, Too Bad.
Lizard
Blade.
Man?
I fucking love Lizard Man.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes,
wait, so
man.
You went through really quick. You said Cyclone,
Moss Man, Clamp Champ.
Clamp Champ. Man, that's 3 of 4 of you love Clamp Champ. That's crazy.
I take responsibility for pushing the shit out of that character because I've loved him since I was 4 years old. I knew nothing of him, and I didn't get him until much later on. But I'm not going to say I'm responsible for Rebecca, but like I have championed that character since I've been on this podcast because I'm like he's so underappreciated.
What's your pitch to make people like fall in love with Clamp Champ? Because I think like not to sit, but like I mean it just felt like. He felt like, just like, we have to get a black guy in there. And I love that they like got diversity in there, but it feels like most people he talked to that love him are like, not white guys, it's just like, so it's cool to see you guys, but like, I love Clamp Champ. It's like, pitch me why. You know, like what?
Well, I mean, for one thing, like the idea that he is King Randor's bodyguard. You know, the fact that he's got heightened senses, so he can hear. You know, like in his only mini comic, he can hear an arrow coming right in his direction and catch it before. You know, and just I feel like he is probably more skilled in hand-to-hand combat next to He-Man in terms of like just with his bare hands. There, the fact that he can, you know,
as Johnny says, Masters Carl Weathers.
Oh, I mean, because I would catch Carl Weathers in anything.
Just imagine
Carl
that.
Weathers,
Like,
not now. You would if it was like 90s. Like who did you do?
You know, I would cast Carl Weathers now as a war veteran clan champ
like,
because I'm like he's so fucking good. Like just the opportunity to work with. Well, I mean, yeah, obviously, as young Carl Weathers, there's no equal the way he was as Dylan and Apollo Creed. But I just like Carl Weathers' charisma on screen anyway. So I would just find a way to work him into a movie just because it's fucking Carl Weathers.
Exactly.
But
so who are your evil warriors then? You said those are all your heroic warriors, so your evil warriors.
Yeah, Too Bad, Jitsu, Clawful. I love Ninja. I've been pushing for him a lot too. Cobra Khan and Web Store. I've always had a big spot for them, and then. The Horde, Modulok's my favorite. I love Dialamog, Grizzlord.
You said you only wanted three, really right? Narrowed it down to your favorite three too. That's really
well. Hey, everyone else got to jump all over the place. Damn it!
Yeah, it's possible.
I'm gonna one up everybody. I'm gonna go KO, Vizar, and Nocturna for New Adventures. Karate, Hoove, and Optic for the Evil Mutants for New Adventures.
Optic's rad. I love Optic. Giants. I mean, I couldn't tell you anything story wise, but I'm just visually, I think he's like cool as shit. Yeah. He's one of the only I have New Adventures, Skeletor, and Optic. Those are the only two classics ones I have from New Adventure. So yeah,
let's get an Optic statue then, David. Come on,
it'd be fun. Actually, I really want to figure out how to make like laser lights. To me,
that'd be badass.
So I'm working on in my bigger He-Man story. Is like you know, like if I think of it as like seasons or movies, I want to incorporate parts of New Adventure into it when they go to space. So it's kind of like there's a space element. It's like merging Laser Light and New Adventure Skeletor into like one aesthetic. And you know, like if the Power Sword goes away, what's like the sword that he get that like would bring in like Laser Light He-Man, which to me is like the beginning of New Adventure. Like New Adventure He-Man, Laser Light is kind of like merge those together into like one kind of a thing. Get Optic in there. So yeah, I love just the idea of like making like a Laser Light / New Adventure Skeletor work. Like there's this artist, his name's Simon Lee. He did he's a clay sculptor and he's a movie character and creature designer. He's amazing. He worked on like Pacific Rim, did a bunch of kaiju designs for that. He did some really out there designs for like Trapjaw, Merman, but he did a lot of Laser Light Skeletor, which kind of like blew my mind where he gave him like this crest just went really thin. He had this long, skinny staff. He's sitting there. He had like 3 or 4. I'm like, what the shit? So if you guys look him up on Instagram, you can, or if you just Google like Simon Lee He-Man or Simon Lee Skeletor, that stuff should show up. And it's like you rarely see like Laser Light Skeletor get much love. And that was really, really cool take. So yeah,
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, guys, I need to get going so I can eat some dinner and stuff. I'm getting hungry. We went way over my half-hour mark. So
we always do.
This is what we always do. But yes, appreciate you coming on and tell us all this. We'll have you back probably at some point. We can talk about something else. You know, like
we got to get that Superman 4 commentary, and we'll bring it back just for that.
And if you guys want to, I could talk to you guys about like the other stuff I'm working on, like where that came from.
Yeah, because we didn't even touch on that. I was meaning to kind of.
We always do.
Yeah, so we will get that. We will get that next time. If anyone out there is joining us for the first time, you like what you saw, make sure you like, subscribe, and always ring the bell when you get notified when we go live. And until next time, have a powerful day. Tyler, you can do the movie quote. Let's test him real quick.
I thought he was gonna promote his stuff too.
Oh yeah. Promote
That's
your stuff real quick.
To do a movie quote. We have guests on.
Yeah. Tell everyone where you're
No, we always end with guests with them.
Oh, yeah. So Tweeterhead at Tweeterhead on Instagram or Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff. Then my own personal stuff is at David Igo stuff on Instagram. And then the other stuff is at the Monsters ORS because it's.
God, I feel so bad we didn't talk about that.
No, dude, don't worry about it. No, it's fine. Like it's cool. It's like a good excuse to come back for round 2. Like, and plus, I'm here mainly for Tweeterhead.
There you go.
Tweeterhead.
You know,
so, the best Masters of the Universe stuff out there right now.
Thank you.
Hands
down.
No,
it's It's been really cool, and I wish I could make
Beautiful
more
work.
faster. I wish I could just like hit all the characters right away, but 4 or 5.
I want to see that snout spout idea you got.
So
Yeah.
the short pitch is just like I forgot if it was one of the German audiobooks. I think made him an evil warrior first. So I want to do. He breathes fire instead of water initially. They need to swap out head, and that's the one that's more water based. It goes from like evil to good. So I thought it'd be cool to like rope in where he came from. And I'm also like a Mega Man fan, so like Flame Mammoth from Mega Man X is always a cool thing. But just the idea of like, oh, if he was truly like a part of the Horde originally, that might be a fun origin story and like help push how he looks and like make him a little bit cooler. And then you think of him as like a turn good guy, like how that would affect his look too, instead of just being like, oh, he's just just a fireman, So it's like, why?
What's wrong with that? You don't like firemen? What's the matter?
No, firemen are great, but it's like in He-Man world, it just feels like there needs to be a little bit more stories.
I'm
like
sure there's just like, who the fuck needs them?
They don't always throw
There's
you
no
guys
fires
off
in Eternia. Yeah, everything's fireproof. They don't need them.
It always throw me off in Shira when she calls him Hose Nose and
Dude,
Small Problem.
Which I know was like an early concept name, which I can forgive.
But when I'm watching it, I'm like, it's not spelled.
I imagine like John's like hose nose, like just kind of poking fun at you like that.
Yeah. Well, guys, thanks again for having me on.
We got to let the man
Absolutely,
eat.
bud.
We'll
Yeah.
sign off the air. We'll see you next week.
All right, later, guys.